Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, TGIF, little buddy, TGIF.
Tell me about it. Happy Friday, Michael. Happy International Women's Day, everybody. Thank you to all the women out there.
You seem a little stressed. Buddy.
It's
stressed.
You think I'd be more prepared?
I have my heels up. I am prepared. I'm laid back.
Yes, it's easy. It's easy when it's Crudy. It's a little more difficult, Crudy. I gotta do all this administration work over here, man. You just gotta be sexy and beautiful on the radio. I gotta send
Looking like that ain't easy, Dom.
Yeah.
But
Don't
you're
blame
really
me for being beautiful.
You're really just administrating for yourself. So, as your own taskmaster, you have but yourself to blame.
I constantly disappoint myself.
Don't we all? Dominic, we got some fine guests. You did a little booking today. That's commendable. And you called some friends. You know, so you didn't go far from home, but we got some fine ones. Our friend, Wisconsin State Rep Joe Costas-Zamaripa, calling in about 4:15 this afternoon. Do I understand it? Is it Joe Costa's birthday today?
It is. It's her birthday. On top of coming in today, we're going to celebrate, and she's having a little party later tonight. Might have to swing by as well. If you're in Milwaukee, it'll be a good time. So, yes, our friend Joe Costa coming in. Happy birthday, sister.
Not only is she a birthday girl and a friend of ours, Dom, she's also one of the fine hosts right here on WRRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580. Each Saturday, she goes live. She does it live. Well, not every Saturday live, but most Saturdays live.
And probably not tomorrow, but most Saturdays, yes, she's live.
She's not doing a hangover edition tomorrow?
I don't think so, man.
2 to 3 p.m. Central Time, right here on WRRD. Please tune in for our pal, Rep. Joe Costas-Zamaripa. And Dom, she is the lead-in for another fine guest of ours, Maggie Daun, Chief Corporate Counsel, Milwaukee County, and she does a show right here on WRRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580 as well. So not only are we welcoming some of the smartest, sharpest female hosts in the business, Dom, you know, we're what? We're booking easy guests, Dom, apparently. He called a couple friends. Hey, you want to come over? I'll buy you a beer. That's how it went. That's how it went.
Not just that easy, Crudy. Qualified, intelligent, spirited, awesome women that happen to be friends of ours, that happen to do shows on the weekends. Great perspectives. Anything, Crudy, to liven up the frickin' sausage party around here.
Dominic, excepting you and Brian, our hosts aren't qualified. They're overqualified.
No doubt.
So we'll look forward to two fun guests, Maggie Daun in the happy hour, Joe Costas-Zamaripa. She makes any hour happy. She'll be here about 4:15 live via phone. And our friend, comedian Will Durst, will make time for his commentary. He does one most weeks for us as well. So that'll be fun. But, Dom, let's talk about the story that broke as we were going off the air yesterday, and we didn't know the outcome as we signed off. But the official version, Paul Manafort, 4 years in prison in Virginia case, about 4 years. Not even 4 years, 47 months. Considering what he was facing and the sentencing recommendations, he got off easy, Dom. Let me read. Paul Manafort, who once served as President Trump's campaign chairman, Washington Post here, by the way, Rachel Winder and others reporting, Manafort served as President Donald Trump's campaign chairman and was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison Thursday for cheating on his taxes and bank fraud, a far lesser sentence than the roughly 20 years he had faced under federal sentencing guidelines. U.S. District Judge T.S. I'm a Trump lover, Ellis III.
Oh, yeah.
Called that guidelines calculation excessive and sentenced the longtime lobbyist instead to 47 months in prison. I need a judge like that. You know, the times I found myself, you know, over on the defendant side, Tom.
Yeah.
I never found a judge that liked me nearly as much as this guy apparently liked Manafort. I read on. Apparently aware that he might be criticized for not imposing a longer prison term, Ellis told a packed courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia, that anyone who didn't think the punishment was tough enough should go spend a week in jail in the federal penitentiary. He has to spend 47 months, minus 9 months time served, right, Tom? He gets credit for that as well.
Credit, right.
Now, he kind of melodramatic it in court. Kind of a drama queen, this Paul Manafort, as I read. Wearing a green jail uniform, that part probably not optional, Dom, that said Alexandria inmate on the back. Manafort, 69, sat in a wheelchair for the entire hearing and did not visibly react when the sentence was read by the judge.
A wheelchair, hell, did they roll him in with the neck brace on, too, while they're at it?
They listed off a number of ailments, Dom. You know, everything from like hemorrhoids to anxiety attacks. It was like when you hear, you know, when call your doctor and see if such and such is right for you. Right. Here are the side effects, and there is a whole litany of possible things. Anal bleeding, you know, all kinds of stuff that could happen.
45 seconds of side effects and 60-second ad.
Prisons have a high risk of fungal infections, just so you know.
Manafort's legal defense, yeah, thanks. That was a big addition to the show. Manafort's legal defense team apparently thought it merited noting to the judge, although federal sentencing guidelines says the condition of the inmate really should bear no relevance on the sentence. They got infirmaries in jail. They can take care of all that.
He'll be just fine.
Anyways, let's read on. Prosecutors have painted Manafort as an incorrigible cheat who must be made to understand the seriousness of his wrongdoing. Manafort contends he is mere collateral damage in special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian involvement in the 2016 presidential election. At a trial last year, Manafort was found guilty of hiding millions. That's dollars, right? Or is it rubles? He made lobbying on behalf of Ukrainian politicians in overseas bank accounts, then falsifying his finances to get loans when his patrons lost power. Prosecutors highlighted his lavish lifestyle, saying his crimes were used to pay for high-end clothes and multiple properties. Ellis said the sentence he imposed was more in line with others who had been convicted of similar crimes. The judge noted that he must consider the entirety of Manafort's life when issuing a sentence, saying letters showed Manafort had been a good friend. Would you write me a good friend letter? I was going to federal
Crudy, how many hundreds of millions of dollars are you hiding? And if you were a good friend, wouldn't you give me a debit card?
Well, Dominic, Manafort also described as a generous person, and you've never been thusly described.
Come on, I buy you drinks all the time, and it's easy to be generous when you don't pay any taxes.
I buy more of your drinks than you bought them for me.
You bought last round. That's correct.
Every round in February.
Oh, hell. Now you got to start keeping tick notes for Crudy.
Yeah, you better. You better, man. Or otherwise, how would I characterize you as a generous person?
Come on.
If I ever had to write a sentencing, an encouragement letter on your behalf.
Let's stay with Manafort Crudy. It's easy. It's very easy to be generous when you have gross revenue. Right? He doesn't have any penny taxes on that. He had millions and millions of dollars overseas. Yeah, very generous with the taxpayers' dollars.
So Manafort will be buying the drinks. Once again, Manafort's life, the judge noted Manafort's life when issuing a sentence, saying letters from Manafort show that Manafort had been a good friend and a generous person. But that cannot erase the criminal activity. Manafort's tax crimes, the judge said, were a theft of money from everyone who pays taxes. And therefore, Donald Trump got exempted. Because only the suckers pay taxes. Ellis expressed some sympathy for the GOP consultant who had worked on the presidential campaigns of Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, H.W. Bush, becoming a Washington insider and a high-flying consultant for hire. Ellis said he lived an otherwise blameless life. And the judge noted Manafort had no past criminal history and had earned the admiration of a number of people who wrote letters to the court. Well, what did his own children say about him? You know that money Dad's got? That's blood money. There's blood on Dad's hands. That's what his own kids said about him in text transcripts.
Yeah, some texts. I'm not clear what the story on that was, but texts were released from the daughters, I believe, of Manafort, referring to his political consulting in the Ukraine. And I believe during some of the protests there, people were shot. The authorities opened fire. And presumably, that was under the direction, under the suggestion, the consultation of Paul Manafort? I mean, I'm not saying it. The daughters, the family are saying they got blood on their hands.
And otherwise blameless.
Life. Oh, and Crudy, but the most important thing.
I wouldn't even pass that standard, would you? An otherwise blameless life?
Blame for what?
Accepting all the criminality I've conducted in my
If
adulthood.
You get away with it, it's not a crime.
Here's another quote, Tom. This one from Manafort himself, apparently addressing the judge in the courthouse. The last 2 years have been the most difficult years for my family and I, Manafort said. To say that I feel humiliated and ashamed would be a gross understatement. Speaking from his chair, Dom, he asks for compassion, adding, I know it is my conduct that has brought me here. The disgraced consultant. Thank the job for the fairness of the trial you conducted. Yes, suck up. That is an excellent time to suck up.
He did not apologize, though.
No, Manafort said the media frenzy surrounding the case had taken a toll on him and that my life is professionally and financially in shambles.
Yeah.
And I'd say, welcome to my world.
And of your own doing, both of you. Crudy, the Washington Post briefly here. Manafort's mind-boggling 47-month sentence prompts debate over judicial system's blatant inequities. Briefly, Ellis is a Reagan appointee known as a tough and no-nonsense, but in recent years, he's publicly complained about laws that impose cumbersome sentences, as Politico illustrated in a 2018 profile. One striking example from the report, Ellis sentenced a 37-year-old to a mandatory minimum of 40 years for dealing meth. Here's a quote from the judge. This situation presents me with something I have no discretion to change, and the only thing I can do is express my displeasure. I chafe a bit at that, but I follow the law. If I thought it was blatantly immoral, I'd have to resign. It's wrong, but not immoral, end quote. In that man's case, the crime's mandatory minimum sentences forced Ellis's hand. But for Manafort, Levin said, there was no such requirement, no mandatory minimum. And of course, because Manafort has already spent 9 months in jail, his sentence could end in fewer than 3 years. But Crudy, thankfully, he still faces a sentencing next week for conspiracy charged in a D.C. federal court, which could result in up to an additional 10 years.
Dominic, let me just say, as the only one that has been an inmate on the panel, although I don't know about all of Fancy Brian's history, I did, 21 days in Huber, meaning effectively 18 of the 21 days I was able to leave the facility for 12 hours a day. I mean, that's not exactly hard time on the rock. You know what I'm saying? I got to wear my civilian clothes inside. There was no threatening going on, at least not of a big kid like me. And I paid my debt to society and 39 more days on home arrest. But it was still the worst time of my life, Dom, and I would still, I would rather throw you under a bus than go back to jail, man. I can't go to jail, man. Do you think Paul Manafort's feeling vindicated? It's still 4 years. It's still, even if it's 3 years,
but
that's
Crudy,
still a hell of a lot of
the most
time.
important point, no collusion whatsoever. It's a witch hoax.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about all that. And didn't Cohen get 3 years? And he cooperated. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open. It's Friday. We air grievances at 844-967-2789.
There's a lot of, badness.
It's called presidential harassment.
Are you my pal?
In prison, dinner was always a big thing. We had a pasta course, and then we had a meat or a fish.
How about a fresca?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
1 in 3 adults in America have pre-diabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Years 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mama. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
This dude is a clown, and the Republicans are traitors, regardless of whatever they say. The Democrats are one thing. I'm not a Dem, obviously, but the Republicans are traitors because they just wanted to win an election.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
God bless you. Continue what you're doing, brother.
Thank you.
I love your show, man.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon on Real Resistance Radio.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Devil Radio and the political party line. Air your grievances toll-free or text at 844-967-2789.
Fancy Brian, I'm sorry to have underestimated you. I never knew you were an inmate in the big house, that you were incarcerated, buddy. So tell your little story quickly.
I spent overnight in the in a district jail in Chicago. I was extremely drunk and decided that people's side view mirrors didn't need to be on their cars anymore. And in the morning, when you looked out down the street, not only was everybody's side view mirror off and on the ground, but there was. It looked like a hurricane went down the street. All the street signs were tilted and on the side. I was taken in. I went into my house, and obviously it was light out. I thought a giant 300-pound guy can hide. So I went into my house, went to bed. I answered the door to pounding, and it was 8 members of the Chicago Police Department at my front door. I was just in my boxer shorts at the time, and they said, "Get dressed, you're coming with us." I'm like, "No, you're looking for the dealer guy. He's 1 floor above." They're like, "No, we're looking for you." And there was a side view mirror behind me in my foyer. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be right there." But they had to dress me. They didn't want. They had people coming in the back as well in case I ran. So they put me in just overalls and my shoes. That's it. So my mugshot is just me with no shirt, overalls, and looking really drunk and mean.
Little hee-haw-ish, buddy.
Yeah. Funny thing was, like Manafort, the judge happened to be a regular at the bar I worked at, so I had to pay cash, and I don't think it's on. It may have been expunged either way. I paid my debt to the society with cash, and I got a phone number out of it because one of the girls gave me her phone number. It's really weird.
Jeez. One other assumption I've got to make, based upon your prior statement, Fancy Brian, you apparently got a fungal infection.
No, that just means that every single drug commercial says, "Hey, tell your doctor if you're going to a place with high risk of fungal infections."
So Paul Manafort should drop that to his general practitioner,
especially if he has moderate to severe plaque psoriasis.
Any other side effects? But what a joke. I mean, this is a joke, right? I mean, this is a conservative judge, and he went soft on Manafort. I mean, granted, I would agree. 20 years, I mean, regardless of how old the person is, regardless of their level of health, 20 years is a long
they pretend
time.
to be
20
at
years
sentencing
is a long time. I would concur with that. But to roll it down to under 4 and plus time served, I mean, it's a giveaway. How does that not encourage? I'm considering now, man, if I'd have just hustled and just hid millions of dollars and went overseas and, just played the game and didn't give a damn and didn't pay any bills and screwed people and gave them all my advice the best I could and lived the lavish life. And what, for a couple years at the end, that's all the punishment you got?
And how is that different than your actual existence, except the fact to date you've escaped jail?
Well, and I don't have millions of dollars hidden overseas.
Oh, lack of overseas travel.
Right.
844-967-2789. Let's get to the phones before we get to the Trump sound, Dom, because Donald Trump, the POTUS, hashtag not my POTUS, he had something to say. He feels kind of bad for this guy, doesn't he?
We're running out of time. Well, we're going to have to wait, Crudy. We can't sneak him in the last minute. 844-967-2789. Mark P.
Have you ever been in the clink, Dom? You didn't really say.
No, I've never. I've been charged, never convicted.
Right?
No, I've never been in jail overnight. I've been questioned on several incidences in my life. Yeah, holding cell, I guess you would say, but never more than a couple hours.
Buddy, I was there the early morning. When you answered the door to the police stark naked, you answered the door, you're buck-ass naked, and you just walked away. Like, come on in, fellas.
It was one of those party nights. I just assumed it was someone in our group wanting to come in, so I just opened the door and crawled back into bed. Who knew?
That's not a great idea. Did they allow you to wear, overalls to jail that morning?
No, they allowed me to get dressed.
Excellent. Come back with us. We'll wear clothes, maybe.
Maybe.
844-967-2789. Your grievance is next. I hope it's not plaque psoriasis.
If politics is boring, you're doing it wrong. Check out more at domandcrude.com.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill, bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Wisconsin. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joins us on the phone regarding our military influence. Aren't we selling arms right now to Saudi Arabia, and aren't they using, munitions that they have purchased from us in their war?
And if we weren't doing that, because they've got plenty of money, they'll buy less precise munitions from other people, and the bloodshed would be worse.
Well, the blood might be on someone else's hands then, Ron.
I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. Governor Tony Evers' budget is 3 times the size of Scott Walker's last budget. $2 billion of Evers' requested budget would come from taxpayer-supported borrowing, and nearly half of the proposed budget would be going to upgrade and renovate facilities in the University of Wisconsin system, as well as $15 million for a cancer research center at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Members of a nonpartisan anti-hate group went to Madison Thursday to stand in opposition to Judge Brian Hagedorn. The group, We Are Many United Against Hate, condemned Hagedorn's, quote, hateful words against the LGBTQ community, and Hagedorn has lost donors over his funding a school that bans same-sex relationships. This Sunday's Daylight Savings Time will be setting our clocks ahead 1 hour. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Charged, never convicted. Dom and Croat are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dom, I've made some soul-bearing confessions on this program this week.
Do you feel better?
I do it for the sake of the show, for the entertainment value, Dom.
Yeah, your life is a joke, Crudy. Is that what you're telling me?
I didn't hear you laughing.
Come on, I'm laughing now.
Am I here to amuse you? No, my life's not a joke.
Make you laugh like a clown? I amuse you?
I just take my life experiences, little parables about life of crudiness.
Yeah.
And I try to help people learn, so they don't have to, get the bloody noses and do the time and humor that I've done, Tom. Maybe they can learn from my misdeeds.
Did anybody learn from Paul Manafort's misdeed? Did this sentence cause anybody to perhaps ponder and reevaluate their life and maybe not go down that road? Or was it an encouragement that maybe crime does almost totally pay?
I think that Donald Trump's feeling kind of bad for his buddy at least. We'll take a few calls in just a moment. Let's do just a couple from Donald Trump, if you would, Fancy Brian. Trump, he feels bad. 80.
I feel very badly for Paul Manafort. I think it's been a very, very tough time.
Very, very tough. I feel so bad for him.
But how about some clarity, Mr. President? What do you feel bad about? That he got caught? That he's been sentenced and going to jail? And the good news is maybe you guys will have a cell next to each other.
Well, he's one of the good kind, Dom. He didn't rat out the boss, right? He showed loyalty. That's why Trump feels bad for him. A little bit more Donald Trump. Of course, the moral of this story, Dom, no collusion, right? Cut 81.
The judge said there was no collusion with Russia. It's had nothing to do with collusion. There was no collusion. It's a collusion hoax. It's a collusion witch hoax. I don't collude with Russia.
I think you said collusion 6 times. The Fancy Brian was keeping score.
Yeah, that's 1 per 2 seconds. It's a 12-second cut.
Wow.
He said it 6 times.
Well, that's fantastic. And a new term today, witch hoax.
What's the old Shakespeare? Doth protest too much, something of that effect.
Lady doth protest too much.
Yeah, one more. Donald Trump. Let's keep the hoax going. 82.
So, keep it going. Let's go. Keep the hoax going.
Unfortunately, the judge didn't say that. I mean, this had nothing to do with any sort of collusion, conspiracy, talking with the Russians. And in fact, if I recall, this judge explicitly stated at the beginning of the trial that they weren't going there. He warned them specifically. So not only did the only time the judge mentioned it to my recollection is when they told him not to talk about it. There was nothing in this trial that was brought up to even in that topic. This was bank fraud and tax evasion and hiding assets overseas.
Yeah, like Donald Trump said, no collusion.
Well,
no
right,
collusion.
right, and there was no murder charge either, right? I mean, there were everything that he wasn't convicted of, he was not convicted of, but he was not charged with anything else other than the things he was convicted and sentenced on.
You know, Manafort's got one more round of sentencing next week, subject to up to what, another 10 years?
10, yep.
Could line him up, could be a 14-year stay in the big house in the pokey. For Paul Manafort. Anyways, let's get to the phones. People have been patient. We appreciate your patience. Mark from the Sac, welcome back, man.
Well, thanks for letting me on. And you haven't mentioned that the state has to take their whack at him as well. That I did notice that the lawyer was being very lawyerly when he came out and talked about, when he did talk about collusion, that no collusion with officials of the Russian government. Now that doesn't set aside that there was unofficials that were linked to the Russian government, because the lawyer didn't say precisely. He was very precise in his words. So we don't know.
But
this
was not the nature of this trial.
Right, the whole thing's a spin.
There's other Mueller filings we know, because one of them was not redacted properly, apparently, when Manafort's defense team responded. We know there is effectively some loose ends, at least in the sentencing memos, the different stuff that have been exchanged in the Manafort trials, convictions, and sentencing that demonstrates some sort of evidence that there is another linked investigation, which seemingly would have something to do with collusion. And I think the very same judge that catches the Manafort sentencing is the very same judge that's got Roger Stone. I think it's Amy Berman Jackson, but I say that by memory. I could be wrong.
And as far as going to jail, that when I was a kid, my aunt was the secretary for the chief of police in Chippewa Falls, and she took us on a little tour of the jail there. And I just said right then and there, I ain't never going to jail. So.
And you were scared straight, Mark? You never went?
I never went to jail, but I mean that it didn't look like some place I wanted to be. It was nothing unsanitary or anything, but it wasn't like the friendly jail in Mayberry on the old Andy Griffith show. So
you didn't go check yourself in on Saturday night at about bar time and leave Sunday morning after sleeping it off.
Right. Thank you for the call, Mark. Air your grievances here at 844-967-2789. Let's keep going on the phones. Pete from Milwaukee, you're up. Thanks for calling, Pete. What do you got today?
Well, it's a real kick in the justice, isn't it?
Sure is.
This guy is a crook. He was advising dictators overseas on how to subvert governments. Oh, but he's blameless? Are you kidding me? This guy has committed crimes against humanity. And here he is getting off and sitting in a wheelchair. Geez, when did he get crippled? I'd like to know.
Well, you know what
around just recently.
You know what the conservative judge calls that? Gainful employment, Pete.
Right.
Well, you get more for smoking dope, for crying out loud. What's going on here in this justice system? It's ridiculous. We got a guy subverting the United States government and our system of government and our elections and everything else. I mean, they didn't prove it, but geez, he's really close to Trump. I mean, it's outrageous. It really is.
Well, Pete, if he'd have been a black drug offender,
right,
who was indigent and was represented by a public defender in the federal process, I bet he'd be doing a lot more than 47 months.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Thanks for the call, Pete. 844-967-2789. The social media, of course, in the last 24 hours has just been full of these contradictions and, what I think are glaring evidence of inequality in our justice system. And it throws it all out there in your face. How can you not respond to it?
Now, Tom, I was absolutely on the money. Judge Amy Berman Jackson will catch the next Manafort sentencing, and also she's the Roger Stone judge as well.
And she sentences next week.
Well, you talk about no collusion. Just for a minute, consider why it would be that Mueller would take those two defendants to the very same judge? Why would they make the pleading in the very same courthouse, if you will, Dom? Almost like there might be some relation to those crimes alleged and convicted in the case of Manafort. Don't think that Amy, damn it now, I was so good, Amy Berman Jackson, don't think that she is going to let Manafort off the hook in the very same way that Ellis did. This might have been some sort of modest victory for Team Trump and those that would justify the fact that he's only going to the federal pin for 4 years. And, no collusion, of course.
Of course.
But he's got another sentencing next week. I suspect he'll add a decade on, Dom. 844-967-2789. We air grievances, Friday grievances, right here. But, Dominic, one of the grievances I would have, it really doesn't matter whether or not Donald Trump is guilty of colluding with the Russians, at least not in the mind of so many different Republicans. If Republicans could have irrefutable evidence of Donald Trump colluding with Russia, you know what? They wouldn't throw him out on his ass anyways. They'd still be just fine with that, Dom, and there's new polling to prove it. You got the poll?
I have it here. I found this one in Newsweek, the poll from the YouGov Economist. Most Republicans wouldn't support impeaching Trump even if Mueller found that the billionaire worked with Russia to get elected in 2016. The survey...
Now, I've always said that about Ron Johnson, your buddy, Don.
So overwhelming. I still stand by my original comments, but let me continue
Which is what? You've said that Trump will be out in 2019.
I think he will be,
You think that will be at the end of an impeachment trial?
I don't know. Potentially. Again, if he's like Nixon and takes the advice,
he won't be,
then he's not. But he's Donald Trump, man. I mean, he's Donald Trump. I mean, Mueller could drop the bomb next week, dude. I mean, this is not slowing down. These investigations are speeding up. This curve, this trajectory is speeding up. What we've seen in the last 3 months is going to double in the next 3 months, is my personal opinion. But let's hear what the YouGov Economist poll said. They asked respondents if they would, quote, support or oppose Congress beginning the impeachment process if Mueller found a number of different things, among them that Trump accepted Russian assistance during the 2016 campaign. That would effectively amount to the collusion allegations that Trump was has repeatedly swatted away as untrue. But most Republicans would not want the president to be impeached, even if Trump did accept Russia's help. Crudy, 63% of GOP respondents said they opposed impeachment in that situation, while just 18% supported it and 19% weren't sure.
Now, Dominic, would you construe, just asking you and I, we're obviously not Republicans, at least I'm not, but would you construe this to be a traitorous act of our president if he accepted this help? I mean, we know what the allegations are. We don't need to see the final findings of Mueller to know that Donald Trump asked the Russians, if you can find Hillary's email, go find him, right? He called for that. We know that there were meetings all around him by his top-level aides, be it Flynn, be it Manafort, be it Don Jr. There were meetings with the Russians. They lied about it. But setting aside the whole obstruction and why Comey got fired, we know that Donald Trump's team, in some way, shape, or form, through probably Corsi and Roger Stone, were communicating with WikiLeaks, were aware that Russia was aiding and trying to, drop the most harmful emails when they could, be it Podesta or Clinton's emails. They did so for maximum impact. We already know that this is the case. And you don't see any appetite. I mean, hell, there's not even an acknowledgement on the right that this is a bad thing. And even if that evidence is placed, even if Mueller drops that bomb as you describe it, Dom, the polling shows us Republicans don't give a damn whether or not their president, whether or not their guy colluded with a foreign power. And when Benedict Arnold did it, he kind of got a bad name, Dom. When Donald Trump does it, when he accepts the assistance of a foreign power, that's no big deal to Republicans. And that is befuddling to me. I thought they were, didn't Mitt Romney say they were our greatest enemy? That was 2012. That's not ancient history. We didn't solve this problem with the Russians. They got the same guy in charge. It's still Vladimir Putin.
Oh, the Republicans, the ones that stand for the flag and kneel for the cross, those Republicans, Crudy, not only do 63% of Republicans, according to this polling, say they oppose impeachments if it was proven that Russia helped him, also 62% said they opposed impeachment if Mueller found that Trump had obstructed justice. 62% obstruction of justice, meh, no big deal. According to this polling,
roughly 2/3 of all Republicans that don't care if their president is a traitor, whether he obstructed justice. Those all seem under the category of high crimes and misdemeanors to me, Dom. But you keep telling me, oh, it's impeachment time. It will never be impeachment time in the mind of so many of these Republicans. It's do or die. We're with our guy. Strong and wrong.
All right,
but they're never going
of those
to...
Republicans. I get that, man. You're going to get a third of Republicans are never, ever, ever going to go against this guy. I believe that.
It's not a third. It's 2/3, Dom. It's two-thirds
now.
63% that will not impeach, even when presented with the evidence of collusion, of corruption, of obstruction. It does not matter.
Predictably, there was a divide along party lines when it came to impeaching Trump. Crudy, 76% of Democrats would support impeaching Trump if Mueller found he accepted acceptance from Russia. 76%, Crudy. What about the other 24%? I mean, so what? We have a quarter of the Democrats don't think he should be impeached if he accepted help from Russia. Why is that?
Maybe they're cynical like me. Maybe they look and realize that if 63% of Republicans are just fine with that, the net result of this impeachment trial will be to strengthen their opponent. We saw that happen with Scott Walker and the recall in the state of Wisconsin. Impeachment would be the best thing that could happen to Donald Trump's reelection campaign. And maybe there's 24%. I might find myself in that 24%. It's not that we don't think the impeachment is merited. Certainly it would be in that freaking circumstance. It's that we don't believe that the Republicans will ever do the right thing, and therefore the net result will be to rise him up like a martyr.
Man, if you live your life waiting on everybody else to do the right thing, what kind of world are you living in? I mean, who gives a damn, Crudy? If the guy is found to have worked with a foreign power to subvert and
unsuccessfully impeach him, so you charge him in the House, you get the simple majority, and you can't raise the 2/3 majority over in the Senate side. And the whole time he gets to fundraise and claim how he's been villainized and he can play the martyr.
Villainized how? Crudy, this is the point. It's one thing to say, hey, you come back and there was no collusion, no conspiracy. But we're talking about a situation where Mueller has found there was conspiracy, that there was obstruction. These are very specific. How is Donald Trump going to fundraise on the fact that he was conspiring with the Russians? Hey, send me $5 right now. Yeah, I was conspiring, but Vladimir will double your donation today. It's not a witch hunt if it's found to be true, Crudy. How is that a witch hunt?
Because the truth does not matter in Donald Trump's world. The truth does not matter.
I don't live in Donald Trump's world, Crudy.
Yes,
no, absolutely not. If you say that, if you say you accept that reality, you've already lost, Crudy. Are you kidding me? So you're what? You're not
at the ballot box. I just think impeachment's a futile act.
So what makes okay? All right, let's take this down the line. Let's say this. So what's to stop Donald Trump in 2020 from doing the same damn thing if there's no repercussions for his actions? Is it the second time that the Russians hack somebody's information and release it to WikiLeaks and they put it out there?
Republicans would care then, as long as
would you care? Do you care?
Sure, I would. Sure, I would.
All right, but if there's no repercussion for that action, what's to stop the next person from doing it? It's not just about Trump. It's about the future of this country, Crudy.
Do you know the number of circumstances that had to align to make Donald Trump the president? 9 out of 10 days, Donald Trump does not become the president. And yes, sure, maybe the Russians had some modest influence over the outcome. But I would say the influence of James Comey was greater. I would say the failure of Hillary Clinton to come to Wisconsin was a greater influence on the outcome. I would say the Electoral College had a greater influence on the outcome in making Donald Trump the president. To replicate that set of circumstance and think somehow a foreign power is going to replicate their influence and push 22,000 votes and that narrow margin is going to re-push Donald Trump to the finish line, I think there is a much greater likelihood that if we do, in fact, take up impeachment motions against Donald Trump, Republicans who have already demonstrated where their loyalty lies. It lies with Team. It lies with Putin. They don't give a damn if he's corrupt. They don't give a damn if he obstructed. They don't give a damn if he colluded with the Russians. So you do live in that world, Dom, because those are the same Republicans that control the legislature. They control the Senate, and right now they control the White House. And they control the state of Wisconsin in 2/3 of the levers of power. 3/4. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates, more Friday grievances. 844-967-2789.
You hear about Trump?
The collusion delusion.
Like sheep, they ran toward the slaughterhouse.
We want to find the collusion.
In order to arrest him, the sheriff has to have a charge. And Trump hasn't given him a thing to go on.
Find some collusion.
Since the sheriff wouldn't stop Trump, Hobie had to find somebody who would.
Where is the collusion?
Grand theft, fraud, I think a jury will find it stealing.
But there's been no collusion, no obstruction, and virtually everybody agrees to that.
You're under arrest, Trump.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. Closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. It's Friday. Air your grievances at 844-967-2789. If you're too scared to be on the phone, you can text us. Like Tony from Oregon says, Crudy is off the rails once again. Dom wins. Step off, George.
Tony, kiss my ass. Do not correct me on the radio.
I hear what you're saying, Crudy, and I think a lot of people, a lot of Dems probably concur with your line of thinking. I'm just more of a purist on it. I don't think you ever stand for those things, and let the chips fall where they may.
I think we crush him at the ballot box. I think that Donald Trump is so ripe for a crushing defeat, and I think that's the only way it will be acknowledged. If he loses through impeachment, does the nation win if Mike Pence becomes the president? Is that a win for us?
Well, I mean, whoever is president, they're going to have to run again in 2020, Crudy. I don't see how that's even relevant. No, I'm not going to sit there and think, oh, my God, well, Mike Pence is it, so no. Hell, who knows what Mike's into? It could be Nancy.
Yeah, good luck with that. There's no way in the world they would allow Nancy Pelosi
Who's
to
they?
become the
What do you mean
president.
by they? You mean you or me?
You don't think
or
they
the
could
Republicans?
drag their feet I mean, Mitch McConnell didn't acknowledge a Supreme Court nomination, didn't give the man a hearing. You think that there wouldn't be some way to drag out?
You think that if the House votes for impeachment, that McConnell's not going to bring it to a vote for 2 years? You think that's going to fly?
63% of Republicans don't care if the president, even if shown evidence, would not vote to impeach. And that's the regular rank-and-file Republicans. Now, talk about the really intransigent, my job depends on it Republicans. They're never going to vote to impeach, not to 67, not to a supermajority in the Senate. You need 20-something Republicans to go along. That's not anywhere close to a number you can achieve ever. Ever. That's it. Donald Trump could kill a guy on Fifth Avenue and you would not draw the Republican votes to impeach him.
I absolutely disagree with that statement and that premise and the fact that you say that. What, you believe that? You literally think, wait. I want to think. So you think Donald Trump walks out in the front of 1600 Avenue, pops somebody in the head, that he's just going to walk away?
No president has ever been impeached. Not successfully. No president. Not Dems, not Republicans, ever. In the history of our nation,
because the last guy that was almost as corrupt as this guy had the good sense to walk away. Now, certainly Donald Trump may be that one who has to be drug out of that White House kicking and screaming, but you don't give up. You don't just say, whatever, we'll worry about the next election, when the same set of circumstances could present themselves again. And then what do? You set precedent by sitting on your ass. Hell no.
Well, then you go running to Hannity and Fox News and the propaganda mouthpiece of this presidency props him up. Hell, Bill Shine is leaving the White House press corps, going directly to the Trump campaign, the former president.
You looked at that as a promotion or a demotion, Crudy?
Does it matter? It just shows.
It just shows
they're
that
all on the same team.
He's
got state TV to back him up. Dom.
There's anarchy going on in the White House, Crudy. They're falling apart left and right.
That's what I've been hearing for 2 years, yet he's still the president, and he will be, despite all your protestations on the radio. Come back. It's Friday. We air grievances. Yours are next. 844-967-2789.
Want to be more presidential? Tweet the Devil's Advocates at Devil Radio.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You listen to Kick-Ass Radio, why not have a kick-ass haircut? Get a hold of Stephanie Jude at MKE Shears. Call or text at 414-241-9734 to book your appointment. Specializing in men's haircuts and styling the East Side for years, Stephanie Jude will give you that kick-ass haircut you deserve. Book your appointment by text or call 414-241-9734. Stop by at 1690 North Franklin and ask for Stephanie Jude at MKE Shears. Tell her the Devil's Advocate sent you.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Deadly tornadoes, the president and manafort. I'm Ann Cates. President Trump and the First Lady have gotten a first-hand look at the tornado devastation in Alabama. Correspondent Kristen Holmes.
The First Family visiting parts of Lee County, meeting with people impacted by EF4 tornado, as well as families who lost loved ones. 23 people were killed and parts of the community destroyed. The president spending time with Governor Kay Ivey and first responders and reiterating his commitment to help with the recovery process.
President Trump is reacting to the sentencing of his former campaign chairman.
It was a much later sentence than legal experts expected, but President Trump speaking of his former campaign chairman.
I feel very bad for Paul Manafort. I think it's been a very, very tough time for him. But if you notice, both his lawyer, a highly respected man, and a very highly respected judge. The judge said there was no collusion with Russia.
The judge and Manafort's attorney actually pointed out that his case had nothing to do with, meaning no charges related to, Russia's election interference, though indictments came out of the special counsel's investigation. The president adds there has been no discussion of a pardon for Manafort. Bob Costantini, the White House.
White House Communications Director Bill Shine has resigned. He'll become a senior advisor to President Trump's re-election campaign. House Democrats have passed an election reform measure.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the bill, H.R. 1, restores integrity to the election system.
It ends the dominance of big, dark, special interest money in politics.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says this bill does none of those things.
This bill today, the majority's most important bill, is a massive federal government takeover that would undermine the integrity of our election.
Linda Kenyon, Washington.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 23 points, the S&P down 6. I'm Ann Cates.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
The Devil's Advocates. They refuse to do math on the radio.
Dr. Michael Hicks, professor of economics, director of the Center for Business and Economic Research at Ball State University. This is troubling math all the way around. According to your mathematics, Michael, when do you think the great state of Wisconsin will get paid back on its investment?
Right. I mean, the answer is probably, the answer is never.
The flu season is starting to wind down.
The numbers from the Centers for Disease Control indicated a slight downturn last week, with the flu considered widespread in 48 states as opposed to 49 the previous week. That suggests what the experts say is a 90% chance the flu season has peaked. But there have also been flare-ups of a different kind of flu, a strain that tends to cause more hospitalizations and deaths, especially in the elderly. And that bug has been seen more often than the more common milder strain that was the dominant virus earlier in the season. I'm Dan Johnson.
Business casual has become such an entrenched trend that even Goldman Sachs has surrendered to it with a memo to employees announcing a flexible dress code. The 150-year-old company sent the memo this week saying the time was right to move to firm-wide flexible dress code while urging its 36,000 employees to exercise good judgment. I'm Ann Cates.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous, as in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. Governor Tony Evers' budget is 3 times the size of Scott Walker's last budget. $2 billion of Evers' requested budget would come from taxpayer-supported borrowing, and nearly half of the proposed budget would be going to upgrade and renovate facilities in the University of Wisconsin system, as well as $15 million for a cancer research center at the Medical College of Wisconsin. The U.S. has lifted protections on gray wolves, opening the door for wolf hunts returning to Wisconsin. The conservation status of wolves say the population is stable, but critics point out that unbridled wolf hunts across the U.S. could lead to instability in ecosystems throughout the country, including increase in deer population. Highs today in the mid to upper 30s with partly cloudy skies, overnight lows in the low 20s. Tomorrow, rain in the forecast with highs in the upper 30s. Overnight into Sunday, lows in the low 30s, and Sunday, highs in the mid 30s. For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, people tweeting at me. This is a rarity. People think you're right, and I'm wrong. And they're tweeting it at Devil Radio, and I don't like being corrected on the radio. At Scott Free tweeted out something like, Dom's right, something to that effect. And I said, you know what? I will happily eat that crow with a smile on my face the day that Donald Trump is successfully impeached. But that day is never going to get here. Not successfully impeached. Not in the Senate trial, because that is a political action, and Donald Trump will never turn that many Republicans against him.
Okay, but if you accept, the Department of Justice tradition that you don't indict a sitting president, well, so you can't have Mueller indict then. So Mueller comes back and says, all right, here's the proof of conspiracy and obstruction. Now you got a majority. Listen, we
don't care
of that one particular poll. Yes, Kurt, you can hang your hat on that. The rest of you're assuming nothing changes. No minds are changed. Nothing evolves between now and perhaps next week or next month. But now you have Dems that are in the House, and they're going to see this report. They're going to hear about this. You have a majority. What do you think they're going to do? Would you recommend Nancy Pelosi not start impeachment hearings if it is found from the special investigation that the President of the United States conspired with Russia and obstructed justice? You would say, as the Speaker of the House, don't do that?
Nancy Pelosi does not have to open impeachment hearings. Nancy Pelosi's got all sorts of investigatory actions that the House Democrats can do. There's 81 different people that are already lined up for investigation. Gerald Nadler,
sure, all the committees, yeah,
from the Judiciary Committee. Why not do a slow bleed from here to Election Day? Why make him a martyr? Why raise?
But
him
I just
up
want to
in
be clear.
such a fashion?
You would think, but you would suggest that the Democrats stand down, regardless of what Mueller comes down with.
Mostly because Republicans are not influenced by facts or sanity. And as we've been talking about this, Tom, here's a new poll out today. Most Republicans think white people face discrimination. In what way, shape, or form? There's another headline now, the very same poll. Conservatives are victims, according to conservatives. Are you freaking kidding me? We are just feeding that fire. We are just giving them exactly what they want, which is victimhood. Donald Trump gets to play the victim for as long as that senatorial trial goes on. And if you're not successful, if you don't kill the king, you made the king stronger. And you probably just
but your
made
position is that the
reelected.
king becomes stronger after being accused of and presented evidence of conspiracy and obstruction. But you think that strengthens his hand, man? Come on. That's a ridiculous thought.
Amongst his own followers, and I would say look at the example of Bill Clinton. What was his approval rating post-impeachment? 72%. Did it damage him? Did it take Bill Clinton down? Did the Republicans, did they succeed?
He lied to a federal judge. Did he conspire with the Russians to subvert an election? I mean, you think look
they
at
had
those
an
in the same
trial down,
okay, all right.
And he came out stronger and better regarded by the American public on the other side.
And you think that will happen with Trump? That's what you're suggesting.
I'm saying all he's got to do is win the Electoral College again. And if you make him a martyr, you're making it highly likely that the righties will rally to him. Where if you simply just hold him up to investigation after investigation, you scrutinize him, you look for the criminality and the corruption, you allow those investigations to play out on national TV day after day after day. And Republicans don't have to make a choice. Republicans can just stay away. But if you make him the victim, if you make him the target of a trial, Republicans will rally.
All right,
behind their guy.
let me accept your premise for one moment. Then it is also I guess, your assumption that as those investigations continue and the slow bleed occurs, that there's not going to be any thought by any of the remaining Republicans in the Senate that this is going to be good for them. You think that they're going to be able to ride this out entirely. If you think that the sway of the citizens of the voters of this country are going to change their mind based on the evidence and the slow bleed between now and 2020 without impeachment, that the Republicans would not react, those that are in electoral seats, that they're not going to change their behavior if they see the tidal wave coming. Either way, there's going to be a reckoning. They're not going to go down with the ship if they see that in 2020, based on the slow bleed. They're all going to get creamed sooner or later for their own political lives. They would have to.
Ron Johnson will never vote to impeach Donald Trump. Guys like Ron Johnson, and there are a lot of them, and that is more than 2/3 of the Senate Republicans.
If Ron Johnson's the head of the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, if President Trump is found to have conspired with Russia to subvert this, he would absolutely have to. How could he not? How does that not relate to the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs?
Because the very same Ron Johnson came on this program. We asked him about an emergency declaration. We asked him during the 35-day governmental shutdown. He was on the show in January. And Ron Johnson says, hell no, I don't want an emergency shutdown. And now Ron Johnson is a yes on the emergency shutdown. Because his crazy-ass boss changed his mind, and he is on Team Trump. He is on Team Republican, and it is party over country. I mean, their whole platform is predicated on lies, Dom. What do they care at this point? Are they worried about their everlasting souls? Clearly, they're not. They will sell their freaking souls. Because if Donald Trump is effectively impeached, that is the death knell of the Republican Party. They will never let that happen.
But you think that a slow bleed... All right, but then help me understand, Crudy. Finish the slow bleed
because it was never about their constituents. They're so...
What's the electoral result of the slow bleed that you suggest they do? What happens in 2020? They all get creamed?
Donald Trump gets beat by 15 to 20.
And what happens to those? What happens to those senators, the Republican senators who are up for election that year? What happens to them?
Barely a third of them come up in any elective cycle.
Okay.
You've only got
what
happens
to them, Crudy?
Maybe they lose.
Okay.
Maybe they
do you think if they see that coming, if it's on the wall, do you think if they see that coming, that maybe they would acquiesce to the thought of maybe they should impeach this guy?
Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, but Ron Johnson, hell no. Rand Paul, hell no. Tom Cotton, hell no. I mean, I can go through a litany of Republican senators that will always be.
And now you have what? All right, so now you have Republican Senator Ron Johnson stands with the Russians. You think that's going to go over? You think that's just going to bounce off of him?
It didn't seem to bother him at all. The metrics, the optics of that didn't bother him one iota, Dom.
That's an entirely different scenario when you're talking about...
let me give you one more.
That's nothing to do with this, Crudy.
Let me give you one more. The sanctions on Russia. Ron Johnson voted to lift the very sanctions that he voted to install 98-2. So don't tell me he doesn't change with the wind. He has no moral courage. There is no moral compass directing the Republicans, Dom. They are all about self-preservation, and maybe that's the argument you're trying to make. You think that somehow the Republican constituency is going to turn on these Republican senators and make it too painful for them to stand with their president? Tell them that in Arkansas, in freaking Kansas.
So what is the other option,
Texas?
Crudy? You do the slow bleed. Your hope with that strategy that they're going to what? Turn on those senators, right? Turn on the president in 2020. Isn't that what you're hoping for? I mean, why would you suggest that?
Shave off enough vulnerable Republicans that we can win back a Senate majority and we win back the presidency, and maybe we get a shot at governing again. That's my only hope at this point. Because if you think somehow we're going to redeem ourselves as a nation, this is the same frickin' nation that elected this moron.
844-967-2789. You got grievances? Let's hear them. Wisco Paul, you're up. Happy Friday, man. What do you got for us? Hang on. Where are we at? Paul? There's Paul. Hang on. Welcome to the show, man.
Wisco Paul, man. Tell me I'm right. Somebody tell me I'm right.
Well, first of all, I'm going to do my grievance, and That's a manafort judge. You get more for selling a bag of marijuana in this state, for God's sake. That's pretty sad. Crudy, I'm going to tell you you're right. Trump's not going to be impeached. Fox News, Right Radio. They didn't have that back in the days of Nixon. They'll protect you. And the South votes Republican no matter what. Crudy, you win. And I'm going to have myself some new Polaris tonight. You take care.
Celebrate my victory, Paul.
Got to cut Paul off there. I think he's already hitting the bottle.
Thank you for your thoughtful listenership, Paul.
We got a couple minutes. Let's squeeze in our pal Betsy. We got Joe Costa Zamaripa coming up in a few minutes. Wisconsin State rep and host of the Joe Costa Show on Saturdays here on WRD. Betsy, welcome. Happy Friday. What do you think?
Hey, Betsy.
Hey, happy Friday. And my grievance is ditto. It's same as Wisco Paul. Hey, I love you, Wisco Paul. Anyway, yeah, I'm afraid so, Dom. Curry's got this, and like a light went off in my head. It was just like, wow. Yep, you got to think like a Republican. Oh, my God. Trump, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. This is not good. We gotta hold on until we can vote this SOB out. Yep. God bless you guys. Happy weekend, okay?
All right. Thank you, Betsy. Always appreciate it. Although I don't know if I like your opinion on that one.
Of the Devil's Advocates Radio. We have
that's a great idea. After the blue wave, after the rebuttal of this president, and what a report from special prosecutor of conspiracy and obstruction. Nah, stand down, Dems. Never going to happen.
I'm not suggesting the Dems should stand down. I'm suggesting Republicans never will. They're never going to change their stripes. They're never going to care. Just cashing checks, man. It's all about incumbency. It's all about preserving their grasp of power. And they're never going to give that up. They're never going to throw Donald Trump overboard. They fear the Trumpsters, Dom, because those people are not making decisions predicated on fact or reality. It's all just gut.
So you're never going to win then anyway, Chris.
No,
so you don't take them into account.
Over.
You're never going to win them over, so you don't let them influence your decision-making and doing the right thing every time, all the time.
At the ballot box, I crush them like bugs under my heel. That's what we do. Come back with us. And our good friend Joe Costa Zamaripa, a fine talk radio host in her own right. We'll be right back. More Devil's Advocates.
Boy, it's like they're so ideological that they subvert their own interests.
I'm going to talk to you about that, Ron.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
Imagine being fired because of who you love. Imagine being denied medical treatment because of who you marry. Imagine being evicted because of who you are. Millions of Americans don't have to imagine this. They have to live it. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against LGBT people. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
The Devil's Advocates.
Doug from Cudahy.
Right around the time of the uprising, I found you. I started listening, and 2 years later, after I signed the recall and voted, we went out to sing along with the singers on my birthday. And they were so cool, and it's one of the greatest memories that I had. And ever since I started listening to the Devil's Advocates, I have been woke. I haven't missed one vote since. You guys have really done wonders for our community, and I'm just so happy you're on the air.
Making radio great again.
Children growing, women producing, men go working, some go stealing. Everyone's got to make a living.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio. If you missed any of this fine program, please go to the website, domandcrute.com. You can listen to podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, we welcome back a good friend, a fine Dem state lawmaker. She is Rep. Joe Costa Samaripa. She is also a host of a fine show in her own right, the Joe Costa Show, Saturdays 2 to 3 right here on WRRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580 AM. Joe Costa, welcome back to the big show, birthday girl.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, happy birthday, Joe Costa. Thank you.
So the birthday month begins today.
No birthday months for me. I can barely handle the one night.
Well, you let Dom and I do the extra partying for you. Joe Costa, I see you were at a political function today for, I believe, Judge Danielle Shelton, or at least she wants to be a judge.
Well, yes, she's a candidate, Milwaukee County Circuit Court judicial candidate, Danielle Shelton. We actually had an event for her yesterday, so I posted it today. It was last night. And it ended up being attended by quite a number of young women, professionals, and actually women of color as well. It was very women of color dominated, young women of color, professionals. And I thought how perfect on the eve of International Women's Day that we're here supporting Danielle Shelton, who is running, mind you, against the Walker appointee. So we're really hoping Danielle will bring it home on April 2nd, of course, along with Lisa Neubauer running for state Supreme Court.
Joe Costa, let's talk about International Women's Day for just a minute. What does that mean to you? You're obviously in a position of leadership in the state. You're an elected state lawmaker. Women weren't always given opportunities, and sometimes they're still limited in the opportunities, the levels they may rise to. Joe Costa, what's your thoughts today, 2019 International Women's Day? Have women arrived, Joe Costa?
Well, I think that we've made great strides, in gender equity over the past few decades, but we definitely are still far behind. We still need to make sure that we're advocating for more women represented in government. We still, today, 2019, in Wisconsin, we have never elected a woman to be governor. And I, of course, am a big supporter of Governor Tony Evers, as you know, Crudy and Dom, but you know that in the primary I did support Kelda Roys and was excited at the prospect of potentially electing a young woman governor in Wisconsin. In the United States, we have yet to elect a woman president. So we know that it's still tough out there. There's still, during the presidential election when Trump and Hillary were running, we still see these sexist narratives and stereotypes affecting the way women are perceived in public office. So we've made strides. Still got a long way to go.
Joe Costa, I was going to say, though, without a Democratic Party, there would be very, very few women in politics, period. There's the occasional pretty face that rises up and gets elected on the Republican side. But overall, Joe Costa, there is only one party that makes a home for women and looks to women to lead this party. And I would say it's the Democratic Party.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Crudy, because we know that one side of the aisle, the Republicans, they're falling behind more than ever. We know right now in Congress we have 102 women that serve in the House of Representatives. Only 13 of those 102 are Republicans. I'm sorry, Republican women. Only 13 out of the 102 women serving in the House of Representatives. And it's really shameful because at least in the great state of Wisconsin, the first 3 women elected to the legislature were Republican women. And to now see them falter so greatly it speaks to the era that we're in, electing this president who has been so abhorrent to women, to people of color, to underrepresented communities. It's more important ever than before that we have women stepping up and running for office and being represented in government.
And of course, Joe Costa, Donald Trump has had 2 Supreme Court nominees, and I have some fear that Roe v. Wade, it may not die a simple death, but I've heard it said it could die a death of 1,000 cuts. Joe Costa, how concerned are you for the reproductive health rights of women? It seems like we're going backwards on this issue.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even in looking at our state Supreme Court race, look at how backwards things are with the conservative candidate that's running. And thank God, folks who tend to lean conservative, like what we were talking, I think just recently, Crudy, you and I, about how the Realtors Association pulled their endorsement of Brian Hagedorn, who's the conservative running for state Supreme Court here in Wisconsin. He had such backwards opinions and notions on our LGBT, our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, that even this historically conservative organization, the Realtors Association, pulled their endorsement. So definitely, we have folks' civil rights at stake here. We have reproductive rights at stake. And the Republicans just continue to slip backwards and backwards, and it's really worrisome, even for their fellow conservative brethren.
State Rep Joe Costa Zamaripa also does a show here, the Joe Costa Show, Saturdays, 2 to 3 p.m. Joe Costa, in the last 90 seconds here, if there's women, I'll suggest they do, how do you start? How would they start in your mind?
Well, definitely, keep a lookout in your news feed. As I said, I just hosted an event for Danielle Shelton, so go to those political events to get a taste of what it's like. But definitely there's a couple of training programs that I would suggest to women. Emerge Wisconsin, which I'm sure Devil's Advocates have had Aaron Forrest on, the executive director,
sure.
But we have an organization here, Emerge Wisconsin, that trains Democratic women to run for office. Also, Vote, Run, Lead. Vote, Run, Lead is a national organization. They're nonpartisan, but they end up drawing a lot of progressive women. But again, also another nonprofit devoted to training women to be ready to run for elected office. So Vote, Run, Lead, and Emerge Wisconsin. Google them.
State Rep Joe Costa Zamaripa, she's a friend of ours. It's her birthday. We wish you a happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
sister.
Joe Costa.
Thank you. I hope to see you guys later for some revelry, but I'm so honored that my birthday also lands on International Women's Day, and I hope folks will join in the celebration and keep on posting in your newsfeed how important it is that we acknowledge the women leaders that we have in our communities.
And don't forget, listen to the Joe Costa Show tomorrow, Saturday, 2 to 3, right here on WRRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200.
In 1903, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters was founded, and our local union was founded in 1935 here in Milwaukee. During the last 115 years, the principles and values for the Teamsters Union have made many improvements for working families, creating a pathway to the American middle class. Teamsters have assisted families and communities in times of need. Currently, our active and retired membership are collectively working to benefit working families across this nation for retirement security and addressing long-term social needs here in Madison, Wisconsin, and in Washington, D.C. American workers do have a voice in the workplace. Let Teamsters Local 200 be part of that action plan for you. For more information, please visit us on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or give us a call at 414-771-6363. TeamstersLocal200.com or 414-771-6363.
Josh Call, the candidate for Wisconsin Attorney General.
Do you think voter ID had a suppressive effect, not on 100 voters, but on thousands of voters and perhaps tipped the election to Donald Trump?
This is an issue that came up at our trial. And first of all, I should thank you guys because we actually introduced into evidence the recording of you interviewing Dale Schultz, who was talking about the passage of the voter ID law. That was one of our pieces of evidence.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. 21-year-old Jake Patterson, the man charged with kidnapping Jamie Kloss and killing her two parents, sent a letter to a Minnesota TV station saying he plans to plead guilty in order to avoid a lengthy trial. In the letter, he offers apologies, but no real motive for the crimes. Governor Evers' proposed budget calls for fully funding school breakfast and milk programs. Breakfast and milk programs were cut by 10% during the 2011 to 2013 budget and never restored. This Sunday is daylight savings time. We'll be setting our clocks ahead 1 hour. Highs today in the mid to upper 30s with partly cloudy skies. Overnight lows in the low 20s. Tomorrow, rain in the forecast with highs in the upper 30s. Overnight into Sunday, lows in the low 30s. And Sunday, highs in the mid 30s. For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly.
Never made it as a wise man. I couldn't cut it as a poor man.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And this is how you remind me. This is how you remind me.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Want to thank our most recent guest. Wish her a happy birthday. Wisconsin State Rep Joe Costa San Marifa. Find him, a friend of ours. Don't forget, tune in. The Joe Costa Show, Saturdays, 2 to 3 p.m. right here on WRRD 1510 a.m., WTTN 1580 a.m. And Dom, I know you're enjoying the Nickelback, one of your favorite bands.
Oh, yeah.
Being the true rocker that you are. You know, we have some important debates on this show occasionally.
This isn't going to be one of them.
There are important debates on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. And our friend Mark Pocan had a debate recently of some note, Dom, and the topic was Nickelback. The Washington Post picked up this story. It's not just us that noticed. Emily Heil writes, the band Nickelback has practically become rhetorical shorthand for something everybody hates. Case in point, a polling firm determined in 2013 that Congress was less popular than some pretty reviled things, including lice, colonoscopies, root canals, and the Canadian rockers known for such hits as the Earworm, Photograph. Sing it for him, Dom. Sing it for him.
I don't remember, man. I just, it reminds me, as soon as I hear Photograph, I think Def Leppard. I'm a little older.
So when Nickelback was invoked Thursday on the House floor, it was at first mentioned in the usual way during debate over a voting rights provision. Rep. Mark Pocan, our buddy from Wisconsin, brought up the measure's low popularity, noting that 4 out of 77,000 people asked had favored it, and that, he concluded, is probably about the percent of people who think Nickelback is their favorite band in this country.
No, hold on,
pretty
Crudy.
low.
We have
and
some
we've
of the
got the
sound. Fancy Brian.
Let's bring the people the great Nickelback debate.
Doing the hard work. Thank you, Brian. Let's play it. Pocan, Congressman from Wisconsin, cut 109.
When the census and the Federal Register asked for comment on this, 77,000 people did comment. Only 4 wanted to keep this provision. Everyone else wanted to change this. Out of 77,000, that's probably about the percent of people who think Nickelback is their favorite band in this country. It's pretty low. And I think if you look at Nickelback's your favorite band, I apologize to the gentleman.
Why would you criticize one of the greatest bands of the 90s?
Wow. All right. One more reason why there's a difference between Democrats and Republicans clearly found on the floor of Congress today. But
so you think it's mostly Republicans that listen to Nickelback, Tom?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they sold a lot of albums back in the day. And I don't know about 90s. I think they were more like an early 2000s kind of band. I mean, I think of great bands from the 90s. You know, it's Nirvana. You know what I'm saying? The Foo Fighters.
Grunge bands.
Yeah, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. You know.
Hey, don't forget Nickelback.
But not really 90s, I don't think. But I get it.
Dom, I have not verified
Winger.
this. I have not verified this, but my understanding, once upon a time, Nickelback was the most requested jukebox song of all time, something of that effect. The most played jukebox song of all time.
Yeah, everyone gets all salty now on Nickelback, but yeah, you were all listening to them. Who didn't?
They
have
were all
that?
singing along.
Of course
humming.
they were.
I'd like to hear you sing "Photographed."
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to you fine people out there. Here's Pocan on the actual policy, I guess, this voting rights provision. Let's keep it serious, right? Let's do 110.
I would argue, when I look at the small communities in Wisconsin, and I'd probably argue in Illinois, where there are correctional facilities, those populations really do bloom because of the people who are incarcerated there, but almost no one goes back to that community. So this is a much better and more accurate way to have the census, and I hope that it'll be supported, and I yield back.
Now, isn't In Bloom a Nirvana song? I mean, that's what I thought of when I heard that. And the Republican Rep. Rodney Davis, again, addressing the comments, and damn, you don't want to insult all those, millions of Nickelback fans? Cut 111.
I stand here to say that my colleague from Wisconsin, I know he did not mean to offend the many thousands upon thousands of Nickelback fans in his district in Wisconsin. I'll stand here to save you from doing that and have to face the political consequences at the ballot box.
Yeah.
You know, I live in the 2nd CD, Dom. I live in Mark Pocan's district. If there are thousands and thousands of Nickelback fans, I would suggest they're probably friends of yours.
Crudy, did you have a Nickelback CD? I think we had CDs back then. No,
never had a Nickelback.
You ever
CD.
hear the Nickelback songs? The song we played into this segment with? You know that song, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
all right. So,
I'm
what's
not
the problem?
as opposed to Nickelback as maybe Mark Pocan is, but I wouldn't put myself in the fan column.
All right, man. Let's keep going. Apparently, Republican Rep. Rodney Davis, he's a fan. 112.
I enjoy debating back and forth, and it's always good to have some good humor on the floor of the House. And yes, I actually do have a Nickelback song on my running playlist that I listen to on a regular basis, and was ridiculed by that when I posted my playlist one time. And I know some in this chamber, even up at the dais, are still laughing about that.
Well, I mean, if that isn't grounds for impeachment, I don't know what is.
Dom, you know Nickelback's on your Getting Busy playlist.
Like what song? I don't know. They have a slow or a fast, sexy song.
What you heard is the same song they play every single time with different lyrics every single time. I bartended in Chicago in the early 2000s when all this crap came out, and there was always it split the bar. There were people be vocally yelling, "Why did you play this?" and other people going, "Yay!" It was awful.
I saw Nickelback in concert in Milwaukee at
Bless you,
Summerfest
and thank you for your
many
sacrifice.
years ago. Of course I did. Of course I did.
Did you have good seats?
I tried to. No, I think I grassed,
Did you
actually.
throw your panties on the stage?
Crudy, you know I don't wear panties. Let's keep going on the actual policy. Rep. Rodney Davis. Let's hear 113.
This amendment's a bad amendment. I wish we could have worked together on it. I hope we can work together on any gerrymandering in this nation together as we know it, and I look forward to working with you in the future. But I do have to recommend a no vote on this amendment because it does not address the underlying issues with gerrymandering and the underlying issues that I have with this bill. So I yield back the balance of my time.
And Congressman Mark Pocan, well, he gets the last word.
Yeah, I will just wrap by saying I appreciate that very brave admission of your fandom for Nickelback. That's very brave, and I do recognize that. I didn't think we were going to talk about Nickelback on the floor today. Somehow it came up. But I do urge all of my colleagues to support this amendment, and I do yield back.
I mean, you know, Nickelback is a Canadian band. I mean, what are they talking? Not even an American band?
We got more foreign collusion going on with these Republicans.
See, this is what I'm saying.
Oh, wait. And I think we should wrap up here. And I will tell you, I misstated, but I have pulled up the 100 top requested songs of all time. And on the list, 2001, Nickelback's How You Remind Me.
Oh, perfect. And let's hear it. Let's take a break. We'll go early here.
I'll let you know a few more as we go to break here, Dom. 44 is Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson, Say, Say, Say. I hear the Michael Jackson songs not moving up the list so much anymore.
No?
Queen.
I think Fancy Brian played some on his show earlier today.
Yeah, I played R. Kelly and Michael Jackson and Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Some other good ones. Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On.
Oh, yeah.
Number 41. Which other ones? Any popular one? Flashdance, What a Feeling, 34th of all time.
Yeah.
Dominic, one of your favorites, Despacito, 33rd of all time. Let me get into the top 10 here. Let me see here. What do we got? Mariah Carey's We Belong Together at 14. Hey Jude at 12. You Light Up My Life by Debbie Boone at number 11. Olivia Newton-John, I've made this request myself. Let's Get Physical, Dom, at number 10. Ed Sheeran's Shape of You. The Macarena at number 8. I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas. Number 7, Party Rock Album, Dom, by LMFAO at
Every
number 6.
day I'm shuffling.
A few more. Uptown Funk, number 4. Number 3, Mac the Knife. Number 2, Santana's Smooth. And the number 1 requested song of all time, The Twist by Chubby Checker. Come back with us. Me and Chubby Checker on the other side.
Don't believe me, just watch.
That's so Ryan. I'm the exact same way, but it must be twice as hard for you being have the same name as him. I celebrate the guy's entire catalog.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits?
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. It's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org. Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern. This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. You know, in the 7 years that Crudy and I have been doing the show, we have never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now, advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Real Resistance Radio. Market your products or services, get your message out, join the resistance. Call us at 414-635-0872. That's 414-635-0872, or go to realresistanceradio.com.
Grass-fed, locally raised, 100% organic. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, and Twitter at Devil Radio. And the phone lines open at 844-967-2789. You can talk or text. Be like Rick. Grand Funk Railroad is an American band, unlike Nickelback. And, you know, we do love a little cowbell around here.
Dominic, now the entire audience has a grievance. Those that are left...
are the Nickelback
Dominic,
fans.
We have put the frivolity of the Nickelback fandom behind us. It's in the rearview mirror now. Let's talk about something serious, like the Wisconsin baptism, Dom.
Oh, no.
Real quick, when you were a child, just a wee lad, Dom, did your parents ever take a craft single out of the icebox and take it out of its plastic wrapper and take that piece of processed cheese and slap it right in your face just to see how you would react to it?
No, never happened.
Well, maybe because your parents were modern parents, Dom. You know, kind of like Tide Pods, these social media challenges, they're very popular with the kids. And this newest one, the cheese challenge or the Wisconsin baptism, involves people throwing cheese at babies.
Why would you do that?
Why would you punch that baby?
I mean, that baby had ironclad jaw.
The latest social media challenge sweeping the internet has all the things people like to see in their favorite challenge videos. Cute babies? Check. Unexpected reactions? Check. Food? Check. In the cheese challenge, parents take a slice of processed cheese, unwrap it, and chuck it at their baby's face and see how they react. Some people call the challenge the Wisconsin baptism. In case you were concerned, Wisconsin parents aren't the ones who started a trend hurling things at their babies and wasting cheese. The original video was posted by a dad in Michigan. And also, wouldn't Wisconsinites attach their name to a better standard of cheese than processed? You know, the Kraft slices.
Yeah, it's really more of a cheese product. That's not, like, my parents bought blocks of cheese from, like, a farmer. I mean, we did not get the individually. No, don't get me wrong, though. As a kid, I loved me some Kraft singles, but, you know, it's really not cheese.
You sure the old man didn't tell you that between jobs when he was going down to get the government cheese? You know, it'd be hard if, when we were kids, you know, the government cheese, I don't know if you ever saw that. There was at least some small portion of my life with my mom where we apparently were eligible. And I think at some point we got one of those government cheeses, Dom, and it's like a box of cheese like brick. And if you threw that brick at a baby,
right,
you could damn near kill a baby, Dom, with that government cheese brick. Most of the times, the baby's reactions are just what you'd expect. Confusion. And some babies clearly think they're receiving an unexpected flying snack and take a bite. And, of course, there's the viral trend sweeping the internet. Cats have to get involved at some point, which is why some people have started chucking the cheese at their cats.
Jeez.
You're a cat guy, Dom. I'm more of a dog guy myself.
I do have, actually more of a dog guy myself, Crudy. I just happen to have a cat right now. My last dog passed away, broke my heart, and I'm going to get another dog again. Plus all that picking up the dog crap thing is kind of a pain.
You've had a cat for how long?
Many years now. Probably, I've had, this is the second cat I've had in the last probably 12 years.
Check out the mailbox. You are in the cat lady club, man. You're in it. You're a cat lady.
Oh, come on, man. My cat barely gives me any attention. I love dogs, man. Dogs are happy. They come up and they let you pet them. They roll over, let you rub their belly. Cats are finicky. You really got to earn a cat's love.
Dominic, I dare you tonight to throw a piece of cheese at either of your kids' faces.
Right. Hell, I'm going to throw some cheese at the cat.
You don't have to do it with the Kraft single, buddy. You can, use some good aged cheddar, big slabs, smack, and see what the kid's reaction is.
Yeah, hell yeah, I would. I'd
kill baby Hitler.
What
He'd
is
probably
this?
choke on a cheese block.
Oh, what? I mean, really? Are people getting like lots of likes on this? Is this just the new social media thing just to waste time? I mean, why? Why?
Dom, many fail to see the humor in throwing things at babies who can't defend themselves. Some people don't understand why parents would waste cheese, even processed cheese, this way, and still others express their disapproval with puns. Well, they didn't include any of the puns, so I find
They
myself
weren't very
somewhat
funny.
lacking. No good cheese puns out there, Dom. I know you got a couple.
Anybody throwing cheese?
You're pretty good at them, I hear.
Oh, no, that's terrible. 844-967-2789.
That's not your joke.
Oh, no, it just keeps getting deeper in here, and we're not even
You're
drinking
just not very
yet.
punny, Dom.
844-967-2789.
But you are cheesy.
Oh, it just doesn't stop. You know who's funny? Who's actually funny? Comedian Will Durst.
Oh, we better play someone who's actually funny, unlike you, Dom.
I'm not the one cracking sorry-ass jokes around here. It's you and Brian.
Somewhere someone's eating cheese curd and blasting a cheese curd through a nostril. They're laughing so hard at our cheese-centric humor this afternoon,
Yeah,
Dom.
sure they are. Our pal, Milwaukee's own comedian Will Durst. I have no idea what the topic is, so we're going to hear it together, folks. Here's Will Durst.
Tide Pods and cheese curds. Come back with them.
Hey guys, Will Durst here to say maybe we're paying too much attention. Seem to be caught in a loop here. After 17 months of campaigning and 2 years into his reign of error, the nation has become numb to the president's dumpy, Trumpy, trampy shenanigans. Every day it's the same damn thing. News surfaces that the White House has been discovered to be involved in some dastardly situation. Either there's proof they did something they swore up and down they didn't do, or they're caught in an obvious lie, or someone says something out loud that would have sunk a previous administration so deep in a swamp of outrage they'd be floating upside down like tropical fish after a week of not being fed. Then the New York Times quotes unnamed sources who confirm not only this, but more egregious stuff as well. Then Fox News calls for another Benghazi hearing. Then Democrats argue amongst themselves over whether the latest revelation is an impeachable offense, coming to no conclusion. Then Trump's base says that they don't believe it happened. And if it did happen, Hillary Clinton was way worse. And she was a woman. Then the Washington Post prints a graph that documents this sort of thing has happened 18 gazillion times before. Then Mitch McConnell makes turtle noises. Then the National Enquirer prints a cover photo with Elizabeth Warren holding a bloody knife in front of a daycare center and a 4-page story about her child prostitution ring run out of a Provincetown video store. Then Bernie Sanders supporters say this is further proof Bernie would have won. Then Mike Pence says he doesn't know anything. And then the very next day, it starts all over again. We're stuck on a roller coaster of spin with a minimum of 2 years to go. Pass the Dramamine, please. For WRRD 1510 AM Wisconsin's Resistance Radio, I'm Will Durst.
Thank you. Well done, Will Durst.
Dominic, I do have a cheese update, rather current, from January of 2019. The American Dairy Coalition calls on President Trump to liquidate the cheese surplus. Maybe this is why people are doing the Wisconsin baptism and blasting their kids with a piece of cheese, Dom. Here is what it's written. This apparently a trade journal. The American Dairy Coalition is calling on President Trump to liquidate the national cheese surplus, citing a reduction in cheese exports to China by nearly 65%. We're not sending our cheese to China anymore. To China! Did they stop liking cheddar, Dom? Or is it the tariffs? Mexico also seen a 10% reduction in cheese imports. ADC is made up of 100 large progressive dairy, 6 affiliate dairy organizations, and about 24 dairy industry companies. And here's the quote, Tom. And I did not know this tragic news. Currently, 1.4 billion pounds of American cheddar and other types of cheese are sitting in cold storage facilities throughout the United States with the price of milk at a record low. It is necessary that this surplus must be liquidated to jumpstart the industry. I mean, what are we talking? Grilled cheeses for everybody? You're going to melt them down? The group writes to Trump. It also notes that some 40 million Americans struggle with food insecurity. The letter is signed the Working Dairy Farmers of the United States. Donald Trump, liquidate that cheese. And you know what his recommendation is going to be? Throw it at a baby.
Hit that baby. More cheese jokes? Anybody? Anybody?
I'm running low.
It's a baby!
Dom, you're acting like you're lactose humor intolerant.
I'm totally fine. I have a good sense of humor, but, you know, these cheese jokes are just really not that funny.
How long can we milk this subject?
You have a good sense of humor.
Probably another 2 minutes or so.
All evidence to the contrary, Dom?
What's that?
Okay, last cheese-related question. If you could take any food and then melt cheese over the top of that food, what is your favorite food to be accompanied by melted cheese? Fondue, if you will.
Melted cheese? I'd have to say some nachos, man.
You're a nacho guy.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you? What's yours?
Well, the great American hamburger, of course.
A burger?
A hamburger.
A hamburger? A cheeseburger?
Like our president serves to all the national championship teams, Dom.
Only the men.
The male national championship team. We
Yes.
also noted that story. That could be a grievance of sort. The female national championship teams, the WNBA champs, they're not invited to the White House for cheeseburgers, Dom.
Would they go if they were?
I think some would. Depends on the team. I mean, you'd get the opportunity. You'd take the trip to D.C., wouldn't you?
Would you? Would you go if the President Trump invited you? Would you go?
Only under one circumstance.
Cheeseburgers?
If there's cheese. I'm a cheese guy. I love me some cheese, especially melted down, some bacon thrown in. I mean, it doesn't really matter. That cheese could be melted over, cereal, breakfast cereal. You can melt some cheese over it with some bacon. I'd eat that cereal.
Brian, you got any cheese love, man?
I used to work at the melting pot. I know all about fondue. Just a little tip for everybody out there who's looking to make fondue when you're trying to melt your cheese. Flour your shredded cheese. It helps it separate, helps it thicken. Flour your cheese, everybody.
Lift and separate your cheese. I would tell you this, Dom. If you put melted cheese on a baby, I'd eat that baby. I'd be a cannibal.
No, man.
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. No babies eaten here in like 3 or 4 days. The happy hour, it starts right now. We got a good friend, Maggie Daun. She is the Chief Corporate Counsel of Milwaukee County and a big cheese fan, I understand. More Devils. The happy hour starts right now.
Want to see the super sexiest political show on earth? Check out the Devil's Advocates on YouTube.
Smell like beef and cheese. You don't smell like Santa.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing.
Welcome to our good buddy, Congressman Mark Pocan. Mark, in some small part, this little radio product, the entire rationale for buying a radio station was opposition to Scott Walker. One person's telling me, be humble, Crudy. Take a day and just be humble. And another person's telling me, no, dance on Scott Walker's grave. So, Congressman, I've always admired your sage advice. Sir, what should I do? How should I react to this?
We should waltz, we should polka, and we should two-step. We should be dancing on this right now. To your credit, and I do want to give you guys credit. In Milwaukee, we have seen a shift, especially the suburban areas, from when we had just conservative radio to having you guys there. We have seen a shift in that area, and that's important because I think when people hear ideas, we do better. And I want to thank you for being there and doing what you do.
Hashtag Walker bashing.
Bye, Felicia.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Smollett indicted, the president visits disaster victims. I'm Evan Haining. A 16-count felony indictment against Empire actor Jussie Smollett. A grand jury in Chicago accuses Smollett of falsely reporting to police that he was the victim of a hate crime assault.
The grand jury handed down two separate sets of charges. The first set involved what Smollett told police about the alleged attack, including his attackers hitting him, calling him names, pouring a chemical on him, and putting a rope around his neck. The second set of charges involves the second police interview with Smollett later that day. Each count carries a possible sentence of probation to 4 years in prison.
Correspondent Jim Roop in Lee County, Alabama. President Trump signed Bibles at a church and took photos with tornado survivors in an area where 23 people were killed by storms last weekend. And Alabama could see more severe weather this weekend.
Forecasters say a surge of warm and humid air with strengthening upper-level winds create the threat for tornadoes. Meteorologist Steve Fano predicts heavy rain and hail will develop over Texas before moving east.
Parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Missouri, that's where the storms will be, strong.
Clayton Neville, Dallas.
North Korea may be preparing for a new launch. From Beijing, correspondent Will Ripley reports the North State TV reaction to the unproductive Vietnam summit.
Unloading on the U.S. over failure, saying in a news story, quote, "The public at home and abroad are feeling regretful, blaming the U.S. for the summit that ended without an agreement."
White House Communications Director Bill Shine has resigned. Correspondent Caitlin Collins has the president's reaction.
He said, "Bill Shine has done an outstanding job working for me and the administration. We will miss him in the White House, but look forward to working together on the 2020 presidential campaign, where he will be totally involved. Thank you to Bill and his wonderful family."
I'm Evan Haining.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod. Noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
Get ready for robots to call balls and strikes as baseball tries to find ways to speed up the game.
Baseball will use computers and radar tracking instead of umpires to call balls and strikes, starting when the Atlantic League begins play on April 28th. Also, the distance between home and first will be shortened by 3 inches. And starting in the second half of the season, the mound will be moved back 2 feet further from home plate. That would be a very big change, as the distance from the plate to the mound, 60 feet 6 inches, has been the standard since 1893. Major League Baseball reached a 3-year agreement with the Atlantic League to experiment with the changes, which will also include limits on defensive shifting, shortening commercial breaks, and banning most mound visits. I'm John Stolness.
LSU has suspended coach Will Wade indefinitely amid reports about his conversations with a person convicted last year of funneling money to the families of basketball recruits. Assistant Tony Benford will fill in while LSU investigates. I'm Evan Haining.
As humans, we ask ourselves all kinds of questions. But what if we were forced to ask ourselves a question every day that affected the outcome of the most basic things, the most important things in our lives? The question is, what is your sexual orientation or gender identity? And the answer is the difference between keeping your job or getting fired. The answer is the difference between staying in your home or getting evicted. The answer is the difference between receiving medical treatment or not. Because in 31 states, it's legal to discriminate against people based on their answer to this question. LGBT Americans have the right to say "I do," but they don't have the same basic rights as everyone else. Get the facts at beyondido.org. Brought to you by the Gill Foundation and the Ad Council.
Real Resistance Radio. My name is Brian Kelly. Members of a nonpartisan anti-hate group went to Madison Thursday to stand in opposition to Judge Brian Hagedorn. The group, We Are Many United Against Hate, condemned Hagedorn's, quote, hateful words against the LGBTQ community, and Hagedorn has lost donors over his funding a school that bans same-sex relationships. Governor Evers' proposed budget calls for fully funding school breakfast and milk programs. Breakfast and milk programs were cut by 10% during the 2011 to 2013 budget and never restored. Highs today in the mid to upper 30s with partly cloudy skies, overnight lows in the low 20s. Tomorrow, rain in the forecast with highs in the upper 30s. Overnight into Sunday, lows in the low 30s, and Sunday, highs in the mid 30s. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we welcome back a fine guest, a good friend of ours. She is Maggie Daun, Chief Corporate Counsel of Milwaukee County, and she, of course, is a host right here on Saturdays, the Maggie Daun Show, Dawn of the Resistance, 3 to 5 Central Time, WRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580. Maggie Daun, welcome back. Happy International Women's Day.
Hey, good to be back, guys. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Particularly on International Women's Day.
Right?
Can we talk about all the ways we get the short end of the stick, the more expensive haircuts? Not like that's an issue for you, Crudy.
Oh.
The more expensive dry cleaning, the no equal pay for equal work. You know, can I go on? Sure. I got an hour. Any way I can give Crudy a hard time about the bald spot.
So many places to go. Well, Maggie, of course, when I think of strong, independent, career-minded women, I think of you. I mean, you rock, and we certainly love having you around. We love listening to your show. We love your perspective. But you have a beat on things that I think a lot of us here, a lot of the sausage party going on here, we don't have, you know. So it's great to get your perspective, and I wanted to get your thoughts. Where are we at today as a society? I mean, you just mentioned the haircuts and the clothes and all that.
I'm being cheeky, but kind of not, right?
So, but where are we at? How far have we come? And really, I mean, how far do we have to go?
Well, I don't think I'm the right person to opine upon that writ large, but I will.
But you have an opinion.
Of course I do. I think, like anything, you know, we went from a moment where it looked like we were going to elect the very first woman president to a moment where we have a president who is against women's rights to choose, is, you know, nominated to the Supreme Court a guy who sexually assaulted a woman, didn't do anything about it. You know, who grabs ladies in private parts and thinks that's totally fine, who thinks he would date his daughter. I mean, I don't know how you would pick a caricature of a president that actually could be more anti-woman than this. Like, literally a caricature from top to bottom. And then we all, as women, particularly liberal women, or just women left of center, or women that give, you know, a toot about equal pay and things like paid paternity as well as maternity leave, getting good access to prenatal care, et cetera, et cetera. Then we have to tolerate his daughter sort of preaching to us about how to be better women and how to be better women in the workplace, which I find to be one of the more offensive elements of it. Like, if her dad wasn't offensive enough, now I have to basically like endure Ivanka telling me how I need to be a better professional wife, mother, etc.
Maggie, just lean in a little.
Oh, right.
Be best.
That'll solve all the problems. More kale or celery water or whatever the heck Gwyneth Paltrow came up with on Goop this week. She ticks me off, too, if we're talking about International Women's Day. Sell women all the reasons that they should feel uncomfortable with themselves and then try to create a multi-million-dollar corporate entity out of it called Goop. Yeah, I hate you too, Gwyneth, but I've digressed. Sorry about that.
Is it okay if you cash out while you do it?
She's
I don't
literally
profess to be a political savant.
Thank you for the clip of Ivanka acknowledging that she is not a political savant.
I
Thank you
leave
for
the
the news.
politics to other people.
Until I don't. Anyways, I do have to rail on the fact that Gwyneth Paltrow is out there hawking celery water as like the new thing to like cure all ills, which to me, okay, and how much money is she making off of that? But again, I don't like women or businesses that prey on and help foster women's insecurity about bodies, about how they mother, about how they wife, about how they are in the professional environment simply to turn a penny. I think it's disgusting. I think Ivanka is a perfect example of that, who never tires of telling women how they should be. Anyways, I go on.
Maggie, I don't think you're giving Ivanka credit the credit due. She is groundbreaking. Nepotism now extends to daughters.
She broke through that ceiling. I would like to offer the opinion that she was able to break through that ceiling only because her dad finds her to be hot. You don't see her other sister.
That's so gross.
It is, but it's also true. Where is the other one?
There's another one?
There's another sister whom we
Tiffany.
Tiffany. Is it spelled with an I? I joke. No, there's another daughter that we never hear or see anything about, which is really disturbing. There are no cuts of Donald Trump talking about how beautiful Tiffany is.
I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
And she's laughing at that. I mean, like, what I'm waiting for, and maybe I could tolerate her even a tiny little bit, if she actually stood up to her father in public once in a while. Much to my own father's chagrin, I disagree with him all the time publicly. But he loves me for that. Anyways, yeah, there's Tiffany. We don't hear a lot from her.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. That's our pal, Maggie Daun. She's the Chief Corporation Counsel at Milwaukee County. Also does the Dawn of the Resistance radio show here on Saturdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Maggie, you brought it up, and before we get to some of these other issues, I wanted to get your take. The marketing, the business end of it. Now, my wife and I in our basement, we have a couple like framed old school advertisements of, wow, if only a motor was there when I was a kid. You know, these old advertisements in the magazines, and they show like the blindfolded mother getting led into a room where she has her new washer. Right. And it's a real big deal. I mean, we've certainly come a long way, but do you think that we still have, we have a blind spot, especially from the commercial side of it? I mean, we all know the social sides of it, but do you think there's more work to be done on the marketing side of it?
I think there's multiple billion-dollar industries that are basically designed entirely to make women feel inadequate, and largely trade upon the fact that we still tend to value women dependent upon what their barometer or how they rate on our barometer for physical attractiveness. We've got a president who apparently values women that way as well. And until we can start to acknowledge that women need to be paid the same amount of men for the same type of work, and get away from the commoditization of women's sexuality as apparently their own currency in trade. I mean, that is really what it's about. And I told this story on my own show. I was working on like a really high profile trial, and we did what are called basically like jury focus groups. And the feedback came back, and it was, don't wear pantsuits. She needs to wear her hair down, and her hair is like too dark. Well, for those of you listening on the radio that don't tune in on Facebook, first of all, shame on you. We also appreciate Facebook listeners. But I'm standing here with Dom. I've got pretty blondish hair, and I never wear pants in court, or I rarely do. Now, I
rarely wear pants on the radio.
Yeah, well, at least he put them on today, folks.
For you.
Thanks for that on International Women's Day. But so I have to be cognizant of that in terms of what I do for a living. I've had a client in the last year say to me that I needed to smile more when I'm addressing people in court.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Right. And my response to this client who happened to be an OBGYN is the next time you've got a woman in like a really risky pregnancy and you're telling her to push and screaming orders at the nurses, I want you to think of me, sir, and then smile. Because while you're doing your job, you should be smiling more. But there's all these things crop up in all kinds of places. I recently picked up an article that talked about women's exclamation point dilemma in the workplace. And the theory goes like this. I myself have been prey to this. If I don't put a thank you exclamation point at the end of like every email or hi exclamation point, people are, in other words, if I just send a content-based email to someone with some declarative statements in it, they're going to think I'm being mean to them.
They think you're a bitch because you don't use the proper exclamation.
I'm not cheery and upbeat. My voice does not go up at the end of sentences.
Well, whatever you do, don't use all caps.
Yeah, right. Then I'm
Maggie,
really... Go ahead,
one of my
Mike, sorry.
favorite people ends most sentences with like 3 exclamation points. That makes me feel really warm and fuzzy.
That's only when I'm texting you, Mike. You're my boss. I got to keep you on my side. But there's, women's path, particularly professionally, is fraught with like every perceived slight, intonation, exclamation points in emails. And I've not spoken at all about women that are in our labor market and what they faced over the year and the threats, particularly for immigrant women in so many of our different labor market situations, from domestic help to women that do a lot of our agricultural work, and just the epidemic of rape and sexual assault in those fields. So, how far have we come? We've come very far, but nowhere near far enough. And I don't think anybody can reasonably disagree with that. However, there are things to me that are really encouraging. I am unmarried. I'm 42. I don't have kids. I can do that now without being, some sort of weird alien,
some pariah
being,
of sorts,
right? And being called like an old maid. Like those things have changed. I can get on a radio show and spout off a bunch of opinions and hopefully not get hate mail. Although I got a caller last week that said I talk too much. I was like, I do a talk radio show.
We'd like some more pregnant pauses out of you, Maggie, please.
Less talking.
Wait till you start getting prison mail.
Oh, I just wait for the day. But in any case, I think there's just a whole bunch of indicators that, things have improved. But I think for particularly women in socioeconomic situations that are much more risky than mine, I've had the privilege of my education and my background, my training as an attorney. I'm in a place where I can advocate and defend my rights, defend myself. But for women that are in jobs and situations with lower educational attainment levels, I think we still have a society that more resembles the 60s than even the 80s.
Really?
That the lower down the income scale, the lower down the educational...
The farther back in time we go?
Absolutely. Yeah. You start pulling... And those are things that I think... Some of the female presidential candidates, women like myself, that's what we need to be focused on in 2020. It's very easy to talk a lot of game about these things, but the women that face the greatest amount of cost, the greatest amount of risk, that's who we need to be focusing as much of our attention on as much as someone like myself. Sure, I can lean in. Thank you, Sheryl Sandberg, for that insightful comment. All these kinds of things. But I think that is deserving of much more attention.
I've been dying to ask you a question since you entered the studio, Maggie Daun.
Fire away.
What's your favorite food to be covered with melted cheese?
Favorite? I think all foods except for like cereal should be covered in melted cheese. Maybe a fish fry I could do without melted cheese on. But my favorite food to be covered in melted cheese, a hamburger. I mean, duh, right? We need melted cheese.
Hamburgers.
Whatever Dom said.
Hamburgers.
Is that what?
That's what the president says.
That's what the president.
I find this to be a very sexy topic. Come back with us.
It's
We
Gouda.
are the devil's advocates. I already used that joke today. You should have been listening to our cheesy segment before. We got a good friend. She is Maggie Daun. She is the Chief Corporate Counsel, Milwaukee County. We're celebrating International Women's Day. Come back with us. Join us on the phones. Maybe Maggie will take calls at 844-967-2789.
But especially the women made me feel good.
My daughter,
is.
Ivanka.
Yeah.
She's 6 feet tall. She's got the best body. There's nobody that respects women more than I do.
Be best.
To me, this is a very, very sexy subject.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hi, I'm Anton Capella. As Chief Technology Officer at Five Nines, I work hard to be a leader in my industry, and I know the challenges posed by changing technology. It's my priority to make sure your network is up over 99% of the time. There's no question, trying to manage your own business IT is risky, costly, and time-consuming. Don't let IT overwhelm you. Learn more about Five Nines at fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is gonna help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes. Kim, you're on the air. How are you?
I came here from Dallas. I'm white, and I was kind of amazed at how segregated Milwaukee is compared to Dallas. When people move to areas because they have, quote, better schools, I've kind of learned that's a dog whistle.
Yes, it is.
Especially up here.
It will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know.
Us liberals don't always see it this way, but we need to.
Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio.
What's the matter with your life? Why you gotta mess with
The Devil's Advocates, radio for nasty women everywhere.
None of your business.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
None of your business.
Streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and the party line is open. 844-967-2789.
Which begs the question, we played Nickelback before. Maggie, would you have sung along to that? We couldn't get Dom to sing the Nickelback.
No, I would have been a conscientious objector. Like between Nickelback and Coldplay, it's a toss-up between which one's more offensive.
Yeah, but I mean,
Maggie,
they sold so many records that you couldn't play any top 40 radio back in the day.
Everyone thinks they have taste and a good sense of humor, but everyone can't be right.
60% of the time, Dom, you're right all the time.
Every time.
Maggie, nearly as important as the cheese conversation and the Nickelback conversation today, we had a little conversation about the viability of impeaching Donald Trump. Got to ask your opinion as an attorney. I think it's a bad idea. Maggie, I don't think there will ever be the political will amongst Republicans to impeach Donald Trump, regardless of what the evidence may say. We saw some polling today. 63% of Republicans say it doesn't matter if he conspired, if he colluded with Russia. They wouldn't impeach him anyways. I think like 62% said doesn't matter if Trump obstructed justice. He's still their man. They're standing by their man. That leaves me with the conclusion, Maggie, you will never achieve the political end. There's never been the successful impeachment of any president, and I don't think Donald Trump's going to be the first. Your thoughts?
Absolutely no. The odds of that happening are zero. It's just
what's that? A successful impeachment?
Correct. The House could impeach him, but the Senate will not try and convict him of high crimes and misdemeanors or treason. He may have well committed both. I think we have to see all the facts come out on that. But listen, Republicans can't even pluck the low-hanging fruit on what should be an easily unifying message from their party to the White House, and that is your declaration of a national emergency is unconstitutional. You are usurping the power of Congress under Article 1. They can't even get on the same page for that. For shame, Mitch McConnell. For shame, every Republican that lambasted President Obama when he used the National Emergencies Act to declare the DACA. Listen, if they can't even get there, which to me is a much easier call than an actual conviction for high crimes and misdemeanors or treason of a sitting president, it is zero. The chance of the president being impeached is zero. That's my opinion. I'll tell you, even if there was a chance that was materially significant, I'd say greater than 25%, that might make it worth it. If you don't know that you've got it, you don't do it, because the Democrats would pay an incredible political price. It would all become about the witch hunt. You've got to let the American people make a judgment. My opinion is that it's far better to beat this jerk by 10 million votes in 2020. Crush him. That sends a message. I think it rights the ship to a degree, and it puts us on a much stronger course than a divisive impeachment fight ever would. I just don't think it makes any sense.
Maggie, what about a slow bleed through congressional investigations led by the Dems? Is that the way to get them, just a death by 1,000 cuts?
I've got a lot of beef with AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but one thing she's good at, maybe she's got a staffer who's a lawyer, she actually knows how to ask a question in a hearing. Okay, I don't agree with everything in the way that she handled the Green New Deal and a lot of different things. She knows how to ask a question. So do a few of the other freshman House members. One of my constant critiques of Democrats is that they're too ego-driven, too ambition-driven to hunker down and do the work of an elected representative, which is do your homework. As a committee, know who's asking what questions and what follow-ups and the points that you need to make. Every committee hearing where you bring someone to testify is effectively a cross-examination. They blew it. Kamala Harris blew it when Kavanaugh was having his confirmation hearing. Cory Booker blew it. They're both lawyers. Ask the darn follow-up question. Cut the witness off and get the content that you need. I think if Dems could get their stuff together and focus in on actually extracting meaningful answers. And that means you have to listen to the answers, so that when somebody adds a little conditional clause onto the end of an answer, which renders the answer as effectively meaningless, think Matt Whitaker, you have to follow up. What do you mean, sir? Do you mean that Trump never asked you to stymie in any way the investigation being done by the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, or that he simply did not ask you to promise him that you would do that? Because that's what Whitaker said. So I think if Dems can actually make some noise with investigations and hearings, then it makes sense. If they're going to do what they've been doing with these hearings, it actually might do them more harm than good in 2020.
Donald Trump has his television lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. We got our radio lawyer. She's Maggie Daun.
I'm so much better than Rudy, though.
We know that. That's so clearly obvious. She is Chief Corporate Counsel of Milwaukee County. She is the host of Dawn of the Resistance right here Saturdays, 3 to 5. You better tune in. Come back with us. More Maggie Daun, more Devil's Advocates.
If you missed something on the Devil's Advocates, don't worry. After you get over your shame, you can check out domandcroot.com. Podcasts and interviews updated daily.
Sometimes I had too many beers.
When you shop Goodwill, you don't just bring home a vintage dress or cat lamp. You bring home so much good to your community, because everything you buy funds local job training and more. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Knowing your breasts can save your life. Go to knowyourgirls.org
for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Komen and the Ad Council.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
I don't see the support. I don't support it.
Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald doesn't see the support for legalized medicinal marijuana, even though the 2018 midterm referendum in 11 counties and the city of Waukesha passed by over 79%. Call Scott Fitzgerald at 608-266-5660. Tell him you support legalized medicinal marijuana.
No, I don't see it.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org. P4ppc.org.
You concerned about speaking up at work? Do you feel like you have no say in your day-to-day work routine? Join Teamsters Local 344. Call 414-258-4545. Get a seat at the table. Join your brothers and sisters in negotiating for better wages, hours, and working conditions, and be part of the most powerful union in North America. Teamsters Local 344 covers sales and service throughout Southeast Wisconsin and package and airlines statewide. Contact Teamsters Local 344 at 414-258-4545 or at local344.org.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing.
Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's a lot easier to measure how many times students use a semicolon correctly in an essay.
Educated educators talking education.
Than it is to measure how many wonderful ideas are in that essay.
Busted Pencils.
There is no teacher shortage.
With Dr. Tim Slecker.
There is a teacher exit.
Featuring Matt Damon's mom.
You want to know what my mom would say?
We've had an intrusion into education.
Busted Pencils Radio. Saturdays at 11 on Resistance Radio.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Brian Kelly. Governor Tony Evers' budget is 3 times the size of Scott Walker's last budget. $2 billion of Evers' requested budget would come from taxpayer-supported borrowing, and nearly half of the proposed budget would be going to upgrade and renovate facilities in the University of Wisconsin system, as well as $15 million for a cancer research center at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Members of a nonpartisan anti-hate group went to Madison Thursday to stand in opposition to Judge Brian Hagedorn. The group, We Are Many United Against Hate, condemned Hagedorn's, quote, hateful words against the LGBTQ community, and Hagedorn has lost donors over his funding a school that bans same-sex relationships. This Sunday's Daylight Savings Time will be setting our clocks ahead 1 hour. You're listening to Real Resistance Radio.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in. Dom and Krutz are the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. It's International Women's Day. We got a fine guest to help us celebrate. She is Maggie Daun. She's our legal eagle. She is the Chief Corporate Counsel of Milwaukee County, and she is the host of the Dawn of the Resistance right here on WRD 1510 AM, WTTN 1580, playing out Saturdays 3 to 5. Maggie, thanks for sticking around. We're going to take some phone callers as well.
Let's get to it. Connie from Waukesha, you are up. Happy Friday, Connie. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Maggie.
Hey, Connie. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, I listen to your show on Saturdays when I can on Facebook Live, and I just want to tell you I love your show, and I love your attitude, you nasty woman.
Oh, thank you. No higher praise on this International Women's Day. I super appreciate the shout-out, Connie. Sometimes I don't know if there's anyone out there listening. So
we're out here.
Good. Particularly from Waukesha County, anything west of 124th Street, I'm a big fan of, so thank you.
So, you know what I think? I think if you're in the 5th CD, I'd like to see you run against Benson Brenner.
Oh, right on. Wouldn't that be fun?
That
Man,
would be fun.
Getting that dude on a debate stage, it would sort of be like a cat playing with a ball of yarn.
A big fat ball of yarn.
Right.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm not in that district, unfortunately, but you maybe have convinced me to move.
Maggie, I don't know if he can be beaten at the ballot box talking about Jim Sensenbrenner. I think it will be the actuarial tables and bacon that do that man in.
Anybody west of 124th Street that can give out some free food to our friend Jim, go for it.
Go for it. Thank you
Lots
for the
of
call.
melted cheese and bacon on the top.
Thank you, Connie. You can also join us at 844-967-2789. All right, Crudy and Maggie, I have to, again, restate my position. I hear what you're saying. Politically, it's certainly
Saying
risky.
it again won't make it right,
It's certainly
Dom.
risky. But I want Maggie's opinion, not you, Crudy. If Mueller comes back and says conspiracy and obstruction, all right, and he's going to have basically the same information that the slow bleed of the congressional testimony would provide. Let's say there's no new information regardless of the source. If it's conspiracy and obstruction, and if you believe that the DOJ cannot, charge, you can't indict him for it, the special counsel cannot, based on what their recommendations are right now, how do you not impeach him? I mean, there was a very clear evidence of high crimes and misdemeanors. You just had a blue wave. Democrats just took over the House. I don't see how you could not. Does it then not? And being the attorney, how is it not precedent that this behavior is now acceptable if there's not any political efforts to, provide some recourse for this country?
Maggie, explain strategery to my little buddy, please.
Well, strategery is that was my weak attempt at a little GW. Listen, you make a really fair point. Clinton was impeached for basically some really inappropriate sexual behavior.
Well, he was impeached because he lied to a federal judge.
And then, can I finish my sentence on International Women's Day?
Mansplain it to her, Dom.
Yeah,
Mansplain it to her.
And then lying about it, right? And so here, is it very clear to me that Trump and his surrogates and his family have lied about a whole set of things that are of a level of importance that greatly exceeds Bill Clinton's sexual harassment, right? And let's just call it what it sexual harassment, discrimination, whatever you want to call what Clinton was up, maybe it's even sexual assault, just rotten when it came to women, and then lying about it. Those are serious and disturbing acts by a sitting president in the Oval Office. To me, they are of a different type and kind than the things that Donald Trump has been lying about to the American people, that his surrogates have been lying about to Congress, to the FBI. The things that they're lying about, if there's no collusion, then why lie about it? If there's no violation of campaign finance, or if it was unintentional, why lie about it? That's what all of this is about, is the lying and the misdirection to the American public. The reason that I think it doesn't set a precedent is that Clinton didn't set a precedent for impeaching people for bad sort of sexual behavior. Because if that was the standard, then we would have impeached Donald Trump immediately, right? So I don't think that impeachment is one of those things where one case then predicts or is determinative of the next case. I think we are in a really politically fragile moment in our country, and I think it is incumbent upon Democrats to keep our eyes on the prize, and that is the election in 2020. And that is, while encouraging debate within our party to put forward a united front in 2020, to take as many of the Senate seats as we can, to not destroy one another in the process. I think it's important that Dom and I and Mike can disagree about impeachment and yet agree and be sure that everyone's hearing us when we all say together, this guy committed crimes. And we're having an interesting political debate about whether or not to impeach him. But there's no question that he has committed crimes. Whether or not that's ultimately proven in a court of law beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't hold any reasonable doubt as an elector that he has committed crimes and is unfit to be president. He was unfit on day one, and everything that I've learned since then continues to reaffirm the idea that he is unfit. That, to me, is what's important. And again, some of these are academic discussions. Would it be great if we knew that we could impeach him and get him out? Sure, but then we get Mike Pence, the man who on International Women's Day cannot go out to dinner with a woman who is not accompanied by a man. That guy is scary in a whole different way.
As long as mother's there, he's okay to go.
Of course, if it's chaperoned, we're all good. But legitimately, Mike Pence is a really, really scary politician who has said some seriously disturbing things in his run-up to the vice presidency. And at least he would have the common sense to not say some of the stuff that Trump does. But that, to me, is almost worse. You know, if it's in Trump's head, it's coming out of his mouth. We know exactly what he thinks about basically everything because he tells us. Pence would keep some of his really scary thoughts and comments to himself. So I think respectfully, Dom, I have to disagree with you on International Women's Day. No, I don't think it's going to set a precedent. Trump, I hope, is unique in his level of corruption and criminality. I hope we never see it again. I hope Republicans have had a sobering look into the deep, dark abyss of what can happen to their party when no one is minding the store.
Maggie, we have not had an opportunity to speak since Michael Cohen gave his public testimony, I believe last Wednesday. Michael Cohen brought a check, and first and foremost, I had to have a good giggle. The President of the United States reimburses the hush money to porn stars, which apparently is a violation of campaign finance law, but did so with a personal check and then wrote 11 more, had the Sun sign a few, the CFO signed a few. Maggie, this does not seem to be the smartest way to perpetrate a crime. I wouldn't write a personal check. What's your thought?
Generally, when I'm speaking about hypothetical payoffs to strippers and porn stars, when my clients ask me about that, I generally advise them not to open their own personal checkbook and to cut the check from there. I think that's a fairly obvious piece of advice, but apparently the President of the United States needs to be told that. Just like Don McGahn had to tell him in stark terms that if he sits down with Robert Mueller, he would be wearing an orange jumpsuit. This man is not smart. He just happens to stumble upon a group of electors that literally don't care if they're getting sold snake oil. They don't care, and he's figured it out. So he's completely on tilt all of the time, and no one cares.
What are you selling, Mr. Snake Oil?
Exactly.
Maggie, do you think we saw evidence that rose to the level of criminality? Did Michael Cohen present effectively evidence of clear campaign finance violations on behalf of the President of the United States? Do you think we've already seen criminality on Trump's behalf?
To me, there was no there from Cohen. I mean, it was things that I thought were fairly already well known as to intentional violation of the campaign finance law, which, because it's intentional, is therefore a crime, and then obstruction of justice to cover that up. I think we also saw clearer evidence of obstruction of justice. It was weird to me that Cohen said he hadn't observed or didn't know of any direct evidence that may have a tendency to prove collusion when he was standing in the room when on a speakerphone, Roger Stone discussed with Trump the timing of the WikiLeaks release of Clinton emails. If that's not coordinating with a foreign power to subvert an election, I don't know what is. The thing that I thought was potentially substantively new was in a response to a question from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in which she asked him, do you know of any other crimes? I was like, give this woman a hug for asking the totally obvious question, which no one else had. And he's like, yes, he lies as to the value of his assets when he's dealing with his taxes to value them down inappropriately, and he inflates their value when he's attempting to get security and for other insurance purposes. And immediately thereafter, you found out that the Department of Financial Services in New York State is now investigating the Trump organization related to those things. I thought there was some there in that one area, which I think is really important. And I always love it when nerdy accountant types start, combing through the documents. That's where you start to find things. And of course, Trump will go, I hired the best people. I had no idea that they were doing it. Of course you did, because if it shows a pattern of consistently undervaluing assets for tax purposes while overvaluing them for the purposes of obtaining credit or other insurance purposes, and it happens to be that every time it's taxed, they're lower, and every time it's when you need a loan or you're trying to insure something, the value is higher, that tends to show a pattern that evidences intent. I thought that was some new there.
Maggie, the very same week as the Kavanaugh hearing, there was a New York Times expose, a long read. They went through all of the sort of Trump fraud, the tax fraud that had happened from the passing of assets from Fred Trump to his children. And apparently, Donald Trump... You mean like
the 50-page article, that huge expose?
The long one. Yes.
Yeah, I've got it sitting on my desk still. Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, there were more than something approaching $500 million of assets passed from father to son. This self-made man with just a small, measly $1 million loan from the old man, or so Donald Trump claimed. And I don't think the question is whether or not he is a self-made man, but there seemingly is clear evidence being reported of tax fraud. And maybe there are statute of limitations on this, but this didn't come from the lefty media. This came from his own sister's federal disclosures as a member of the judiciary.
Yeah, again, to me, that's interesting. It's not going to convince, I think, a middle-of-the-road voter. I think they take that for... Yes, of course he cheated on his taxes. Yes, of course there was intentional tax fraud. I just think that's presumed from Donald Trump. I don't know how much more sort of sunshine we can make of that other than proceeding in a really diligent way through some of these investigations and seeing what comes out of the back end ultimately. Again, I just think that most of his base and so many other people just assume that all those things are true, and they simply don't care much.
We are the Devil's Advocates. That is Maggie Daun. You can call us at 844-967-2789. Let's grab some callers. Carol from Heartland, you are up. Thanks for calling, Carol. What do you got for us today?
Hi. I just wanted to say hi to Maggie, one nasty woman to another.
Yay!
And,
Nasty Women Day!
Yes, absolutely. And I also want to say we love your show. We don't miss it on Saturdays.
Aww.
And you're very smart, and I love that. And keep her going.
Oh, thanks so much, Carol. That means the world to me. It's my 6th day of work. I wake up on Saturday morning with my stack of news to read, and then it's what are we going to talk about today? And as I've been trying to learn, is that there's about 10 more things that I always want to talk about on my show that I can't get through, and I wish I frankly had more time. Or had the time every day to come on and talk with people, because that means the world to me. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. 844-967-2789. Let's get one more caller in this segment. Kurt from Madison, you are up. Happy Friday, Kurt. What do you got for us today?
Well, I always like it when you have Maggie on, but I am going to do my best to punch a hole in her argument for our idiot in office.
I love it.
All military members, including those who are congressmen or senators, anybody that holds a post has to swear to protect the country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. With all of the evidence that's come forward, one of the things I think I could argue is that he's aiding and abetting Russia. He's operating behind closed doors. There's no one to confirm what information was exchanged between him and Putin. And plus, I don't even have to go down the litany of all the other things he's done that crosses the line, that puts this country in jeopardy. And I think that alone puts him in the category for impeachment. And I think that by not moving forward with impeachment, I'm going to disagree, is we're actually setting precedent that if we allow him to get away with this, then it will actually do more harm than, as you say, the big picture of kicking his butt by 10 million votes next time around.
Listen, Kurt, I think you raise accurate and incredibly important points. There is no question in my mind that Kurt is correct when he states that there is significant evidence that would allow a person to reasonably conclude that Trump has given aid to a known enemy. And that would be Russia and North Korea, candidly. What we do about that, and I agree with Kurt that is an impeachable offense. There's no question about that. I still maintain the point that my belief, and maybe it's naive, is that we want to isolate Trump as a once in a nationhood event. We never want to see this again. And I think if we attempt to impeach and we fail, that precedent, Kurt, if we attempt to impeach and fail for someone who is as rotten as this man, that, my friend, would be a much more dangerous precedent. I don't think we have evidence to show that we could definitively do it, and thus I think we focus on 2020. Thanks so much for your call, Kurt.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We got our smartest friend in the room. She's Maggie Daun, Chief Corporate Counsel, Milwaukee County Comeback with Dom Crute and Maggie Daun. All your favorites right after this short break.
They hire usually good people.
Liar! She's off the reservation, but anybody that knows her understands that. Liar! She would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
We're going to impeach the motherfucker.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday. Closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
It may not require a textbook, but it's filled with valuable lessons. It may not take place in a classroom, but it's an ideal environment for learning. It may not involve a diploma, but it can help prepare Wisconsin's young people for life. It's high school sports. High school sports can play a critical role in a student's overall education. In fact, studies show that students that participate in high school sports are more likely to enjoy greater levels of achievement in their academic lives. If you think high school sports are only about competition, think again. Better yet, think about attending a high school sporting event in your community. You'll be amazed by what you see. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Wisconsin Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Once again, the American public has some reading to do. In a 29-page indictment today, Americans need to take a look at page 6, paragraph 20, and here come those important 8 words: to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election. That is it.
Jim, I'm going to make a confession on behalf of the panel. Dom's not going to read the indictments.
Come on, maybe.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class. The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy Friday, last segment of the day. If you got something to say, you can still join us. 844-967-2789. Maggie Daun, Chief Corporation Counsel at Milwaukee County, and of course, host of Dawn of the Resistance, right here, 3 to 5 on Saturdays. Let's get some callers in while we got some time. Jake from Milwaukee, you're up. What do you got for us today, Jake?
Yeah, I'm calling to defend Mike Pence.
Okay, go for it.
Just so you know, you don't want to make Mother angry. You would not make Mother when she's angry, okay?
You know that he calls. You do know that he refers to his wife as Mother. Like
oh,
that.
I know, and it's revolting.
It's a little creepy.
So you have the vice president who has a mother fetish, and you have the president who has a daughter.
Oh, no.
Well said, Jake. I mean, Pence to me like conjures up like weird psycho old yeah, like it's not right.
I mean, I know this doesn't sound disgusting, but it makes him a little bit more interesting than a little bit of white bread at that point. But
in all other cases, yeah, he's Indiana-based white bread. Yes.
Yeah. So I do have a question for you. You were mentioning AOC and you have issues with her, and I mean, I know I like her because to me, she seems to shoot straight, and it seems kind of humble. What are your issues with her? I'm just interested.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. So this is part of, I think, a broader debate about what Dems should be doing to ensure and lock in a win in 2020. And I think the big question is about do we break hard left, or do we try to stake out a centrist position for the election in 2020? And let me just be clear about one thing before I get to the new freshman representative.
You better not be a third-way blue dog Democrat, Maggie Daun.
Right. And it's this. I don't think either way the party wants to define its platform in 2020 that we don't vigorously and aggressively attack Donald Trump and everything that he stands for. So when I say centrist, I don't mean weak, wobbly-kneed, old-school Democratic, like mealy-mouthed garbage. That's not what I mean. I mean really pointed, sharp attacks. But what are our policy platform positions going to be? So that's what I mean about the question between progressive, super far left, and more centrist policies. My problem a bit with AOC, and I like her interpersonally. I think she is charming. I enjoy what she is doing in terms of livening up the debate, bringing a young voice to those things. What I'm talking about is that she doesn't quite totally grasp the apparatus of government and how government works. And so when you roll out something like the Green New Deal and it is botched, and there is no question about the fact that she blew it when that came rolling out, you actually harm your cause. And when I say botched, I mean there was references in the fact sheet that got out to ensuring that we would economically support those that are quote unquote unwilling to work. That is an egregious error, and you lose all of the sort of middle of the road voters that we need in 20. She made reference in her own fact sheet to farting cows. This is ridiculous. You cannot even raise the specter of the elimination of air travel or, cross freight trucking in 10 years. That's economically not viable. And so while I believe that things like the Green New Deal and valuing our environment and being sure that we're doing the right things from a regulatory perspective need to be front and center and part of any Democratic platform, when you sort of ham-handedly roll out policy positions that most economists and environmental experts agree cannot be accomplished in the timetable that you've set out, I don't think that's responsible politics. That says nothing about her personally. It says nothing about her in terms of the value that I think she's bringing to the debate. I just think that she is demonstrating some naivete and some missteps out of the box. I can forgive her that. I think Dems can forgive her that, but she is starting to speak for the party, and we have to be sure that she's stepping out in the right way because it could hurt us in 20.
Thank you to all our fine guests today. They included State Rep Joe Costas, Amaripa, comedian Will Durst, his commentary, and of course Maggie Daun, Chief Corporation Counsel, Milwaukee County. You modestly misspoke. It's the cow burping, not the farting.
Oh, is it?
And
she actually referred to the flatulence, but I'm just saying. Then that's another technical error.
You heard it here from the horse's mouth. I know you've been hanging out with the horse's ass all afternoon.
Come on, he was waiting for that one.
Happy International Women's Day. Maggie Daun, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Maggie.
Tune in to her fine show, Dawn of the Resistance, right here on Real Resistance Radio, Saturdays 3 to 5. Thank you, Maggie Daun.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're going to hear about it.
Now, let's hear your side of the story, sister.
Good evening, everyone. Due to FCC regulations and that we